find offensive. The views and opinions. The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid, if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good, where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host, Robert Winfree. Yay!
No song.
When you wish upon a
I knew
star,
it. I freaking knew that was coming.
makes
Oh my
no
god.
difference if you're Zach Strobel. When you wish upon Alexis Hejna, your dreams will, Robert Winfree.
Congratulations,
Die
Robert. You've been made into a verb.
You ever been Robert Winfree? I get Robert Winfree at least once a week. I don't know.
Look, you had the opportunity to walk away from that situation, and because they equaled the payoff, you chose to stay. That's on you.
It's fair. What are we talking about tonight, there, Shift Brains?
Well, tonight, everybody, we are talking about what a terrible year Disney has had.
Don't do that. I don't want Alexis Hejna to commit harikari right here on the podcast.
I've been making jokes literally this whole year about how they're going to burn down Disney World, blame Ron DeSantis, and then claim the insurance money. And I'd like to add that I've been making that as a joke. It's now becoming the best case scenario for this company.
And look, we don't need to go into it too far, but because we are discussing Wish, the latest animated Disney feature, it's the big animated feature they released to celebrate 100 years of Disney being Disney. And there's just no two ways around it. 2023 has been one of their worst worst movie years in ever.
Worst movie, worst streaming, worst TV.
Like the Cleveland Indians of filmmaking.
The Guardians, Mark, that's racist.
Back when they were the fucking Indian. Man, shut up. You know what I meant. I couldn't know. I didn't know which was a worse baseball team for the longest, the St. Louis Cardinals or the Cleveland Indians.
The Kansas City Royals. We know that for the longest time we sucked.
You go with the Indians because they were the team that was featured in Major League.
That's why I said that one.
I'm more the guy who goes to the food court during the game.
You're a good boy, Zach. Yes,
you could say the Cleveland Browns of football. You know, there's a lot of references you could make there.
Here, let's start the conversation this way. So when my daughter was in her toddler to elementary school age years, living in Tampa, Florida, we were 45 minutes from Orlando, and we went to Disney a lot. We had Disney passes. We took her all the time. And she, like a homeless woman, lived in her Disney princess dresses. And that's a fairly common enough thing. Little girls, they get Disney princess dresses and they never take them off. Like they wear their dress up costumes forever, and then they grow into adults who dress up and go to conventions. Anywho.
I'm curious. I'm just got to know what dresses did she have? What were her favorite princesses?
Well, gotta remember, and there will be no judgments made. She was born in 2011, so she grew up around the time of Sophia the First. We watched a lot of Disney Junior in the house. So she liked Disney. She liked that one. She liked that was also around the time of the solo Tinkerbell movies that were big. So she had yes, they were. So she had some Tinkerbell stuff. She had Sophia the First. We took her to the Bibbidi Bobbidi boutique twice, and I think one time she did Cinderella, maybe. And I can't remember what the other time was, but so yeah, she had a bunch. And then she got older and she got into anime and she started dressing like a drug dealer, and I don't know where she went. So I take her to go see Wish, as I took my son and bonus kid Trey, and it's kind of like when we saw Barbie. Well, not for me. I loved Barbie. We don't need to get into that. But my initial reaction to Wish was meh. I looked over at Jonas, and Jonas looks at me and he says, "Father." He calls me father, and he says, "Are people now so mad at Disney that Disney thought they needed to put out a commercial for how great their old stuff was to remind everybody that Disney isn't bad?" That came from the 9-year-old. Okay,
your son is very insightful.
I was going to say nothing about that was wrong.
Yeah, he's sitting there elbowing me during the credits as they show you the best of Disney, in years past, and he's looking at me. He's like, "Are they fucking trying to remind people? Like, what is this shit?"
Best of Disney, nothing. They included everything. There was the
Hang on,
freaking cow
come here,
from Home on the Range in the commercials.
If you're gonna fucking say something, what do you? Hi.
Hi, I'm here now. Hi. I exist.
Is there something that you would like to add to my interpretation of what you told me?
So I just heard that came from the 9-year-old, and now I'm confused because I'm 9. And that's
remember how you said at the end of Wish, like, what did people forget how good Disney was, so they had to remind them at the end of the movie?
I think more of what I said was this feels like Disney was like trying to make this movie fail and wants it to be a funeral, just so you can say, by the way, we ended our last movie with a bunch of like things that we made. We ended our last movie for all the stuff.
So you were saying that Disney made Wish as sort of a suicide run?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, go to bed.
A suicide run with the credits being the curtain call, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah, that's I think what he's going for. Anyway. So then I look over at
note. That was the self-important, overly flowery purple prose in your note.
So I look over at Bonus Kid, and he was like, and he's. I look over at him, and he's looking at Lily, and I that's when I noticed her face just full of tears. I'm like, what is happening over there? Did you hit her? What'd you do? And Lily's like, oh, these are tears of joy, and I'm like, all right, let's leave the theater and let's have a conversation about why you're having a meltdown. And the point of me with the whole preamble to that was she was like, I love Disney. And I'm looking at her like, since fucking when, Miss, Twisted Wonderland? She's like, no, I still love Disney. I still very much enjoy Disney. She's actually pitched a couple of times doing a podcast about some of the classic animated princess movies, some of the classic animated Disney movies. So that's stuff that she wants to talk about. She apparently still very much enjoys these things. They still tug at her heartstrings, and she's allowed to. She's almost 13. And when, this movie, I like to call it Reference the Movie, because woof. Talk about a not so subtle celebration of all things Disney. And then at the end, it was very much that. It was over the credits. You had all of these like constellations and drawings of prior Disney movies. And it was just like, oh, it just reminded me of how great Disney is. And it made me happy. And I cried tears of joy. Which brings me to the following. So you know where I'm going with this. I feel like there's two kinds of people in this world. There's the people who have been let down by Disney, people who can't trust Disney with their children anymore and won't watch their products. And that's why this thing bombed as well as it did. And then there's people who unequivocally still love Disney and are still with it, and stuff, stuff like Strange World didn't bother them, and they'll very much love this movie like my daughter did. But that's only a small portion of the people out there, and only half of those people go to the movies. And so when you look at the math on Wish, They accidentally made an extremely niche movie. They made a movie for people who still unequivocally love Disney and will go to the movie theater. And those people are and this is where you guys can now jump in and respond. Those people are few and far between. Like a lot of middle-aged women and maybe younger, a lot of the little middle women out there still love Disney to shit, but they're not going out to the theater to go see anything. They'll wait for it to go on Disney Plus because they don't want to leave their fucking house for one reason or another.
I don't think you're wrong. I mean, my hunch is when this movie was like when they sat down, came up with, okay, this is the animated movie coming out in our 100th year, right?
Yep.
Now they didn't do that earlier this year. They did that,
Starting 2018.
Ago.
Well,
yeah, like when
they started development in 2018, but they didn't announce what they were doing until 2 years ago.
Yeah, but either way, like if you're in Disney in 2018, 2019, everything about this movie suddenly seems like it makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You are the king of the world. And we used to close. Alexis would jokingly close off a bunch of our reviews with "All hail the mouse."
It also makes a lot more sense with some of the animation problems when you realize while this movie was in production, they started their layoffs.
Yeah, and boy, is that obvious in places.
Yeah. Apparently, so I occasionally listen to some other reviewers talk about the movie before we review it, just to hear it's like, am I crazy or was anyone else thinking this kind of a thing? Sure. And someone pulled up a bunch of tweets from artists who worked on Wish who said that, yeah, the animation department got hit hard by the layoffs during the production of this. You had animators doing the jobs of 2 to 3 people because of how bad things got. They were saying they got, and I know how hard they worked on this, and God bless them for it. I don't believe that anyone should have to pull that kind of a workload. And I don't like saying this movie was garbage because I know how hard they worked on it, but God, this movie just was so painful to sit through.
You're talking about just the animation was painful to you?
The animation I thought was okay at parts, but it looked kind of unfinished. I know the idea was to combine like a 2D and a 3D format, but so much of it looked like the lighting was kind of off. The characters were starting to look a little flat.
Let me tell you one of the problems.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I think this goes to your point. I feel like there was a cost-cutting measure implemented where stylistically about half the time it feels like the characters are standing in front of a tapestry that's meant to represent the background instead of anything with actual depth.
It's funny, the combination of the fine Pixar-esque animation that we've come to enjoy. We didn't like the movie, but we gushed about the animation for The Good Dinosaur.
Or like the mediocre dinosaur.
Yes, Zach, you're a good boy. And one of the things that we noticed was like the individual blades of grass would move in the wind. If a dinosaur had hair on it, like the tufts of hair would move in different directions. The same thing I think with Finding Dory. There was a depth to the animation that was very fine, and it was noticeable, and it gave the feature an extra dimension. That's present.
I remember.
Here.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean.
No. Go ahead.
I remember Robert and me gushing about the animation in Encanto, talking about the individual grains of sand in Bruno's room, talking about the close-up of the skin and how you could see the textures of the skin on various characters and just how gorgeous it was.
Right. So when you're in close-up, you see those things, but I think when
art.
Yeah, I think in close-up with the most recent stuff, Wish being the best example of it, in close-up you still get that. Clearly, a lot of the animators knew when the camera was close up on things, it needed to look forced on. When you pulled back, when you're in wide shot, that's when you guys are talking about. This looks like somebody animated a comic book page. Like it's really all over the place at times, and it's frustrating. But to kind of close out my point about, this movie is to your point, Robert. It's about 4 years too late. And
least.
I'm starting to think about like, well, when did Disney really start to lose people? Because we had this conversation in our chat the other day, and I think it's worth having out loud. If you count Pixar, they started losing their audience shortly after. I mean, COVID set everything back about 20 yards. But in terms of like, why is stuff in this movie that I don't want my children to see turning red? You know, I think Raya and the Last Dragon didn't really offend people, but it was in the middle of fucking COVID. It was when they were experimenting with PVOD.
Yeah, Raya wasn't seen by enough people for that to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, with Pixar, it was turning red. Was kind of
Yeah.
the one that got the most because before that was Luca.
Right, Luca didn't bother anyone.
No, didn't bother. Didn't make a lot of money, but it didn't.
It made money.
Well, no, it didn't make any money. It went straight to Disney Plus.
Yeah, I was like, of course it didn't make any money. It was a victim of the plague.
Yeah, but there was no content objection going on with Luca.
I think there was a minor hiccup about like seems a little gay, but it wasn't overtly so to where there was messaging. And there's messaging where things are overt, and that bothers people, which we'll get to that in a moment. And then there's stuff people are interpreting or claiming or owning or pointing at for whatever the reasons are. And Luca got a little bit of that, but it wasn't really there, so it didn't get any traction.
You're not wrong. There was a problem, or not a problem, but there was a controversy when one of the trailers for Finding Dory dropped, and it showed two women looking at a baby, and for some reason everyone thought these two women were a lesbian couple with a baby, even though, if I remember correctly, no, they were just two random women who saw the baby. And so I remember I was like, saw the trailer, I'm like, it promotes gay relationships, boycott Pixar.
Look, if we want to have the honest discussion about this, I can tell you when the turning point was. It took a while to manifest, but we all know when the turning point was. The turning point was when they decided to when Disney, not the audience, when Disney decided to make a big deal out of their first gay moment in the Beauty and the Beast remake.
You took the words right out of my mouth, because I'm sitting here hyper focusing on when the animated movies lost their audience, but when Disney, the company, started to lose their audience, it was Beauty and the Beast. The irony of that is like it's like their most successful fucking movie ever.
Well, look, it was very successful, and the follow-up was successful because Lion King came out after that.
Right.
You didn't manifest right away. It wasn't this happened and then immediate drop off.
Because here's the thing, you can get away with that once or twice before the audience wholesale turns on you. When it's a constant drumbeat, that's when, I mean, look, even the most like, I don't pay attention to anything, I just put this on to keep my kids quiet while I do laundry, parents start to notice. And then, so that's 2019 when, that's 2018 when Beauty and the Beast happens? Because 2019 is The Lion King.
Yeah, one of those two.
Okay. So then COVID happens, and that changes how we watch movies, and now people are trained to wait for stuff to come on Disney Plus. So you lose. So no matter what the content was, you lost half your audience right there.
Give or take.
And then you had everything from Pixar going to Disney Plus. So now you've overtrained your audience to just expect that.
Because not only that, you also you also let go like a bunch of the people with creative vision at Pixar.
Right.
So we don't talk a lot about that, but if you want to track the decline of Pixar, the departure of a handful of those key people is unavoidable.
Wasn't John Lasseter one of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're into 2021, and then Turning Red comes out. Zachary, jump in anytime. Then go ahead.
No, I just
you said okay. Then Turning Red comes out. Now you've made a children's movie about someone having their period, and everyone's like, "What? I don't want this. No one wants this."
I think if we're being honest, like the problem with Turning Red in that respect was, congratulations, you made a niche film. Like again, you're dealing. It's a legitimate subject. It's like the objection was not you made a movie about a girl becoming a woman. The point was a lot of people went, fair enough, but I'm not going to take my kids to see it.
Well, yeah, it was also went straight to Disney Plus.
And then you had the overreaction from the other side going, what, is there a problem with this? And like, no, but you think that just because I don't find, like, there's a world of difference between I categorically object to this and I find this appropriate for my children, and that gulf.
Right.
For
Yeah,
some
I mean,
reason,
there were a
people
lot
don't
of
see that, don't recognize
there were a
it.
lot of families out there that basically was just like, look, I don't care who watches this, but I'm not going to show it to my kids.
Yeah.
They would, no, like you had a perfectly good alternative in Illumination.
Mhm.
Funny, I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, and I said, given a choice between showing my kids something with guns and something with boobs, I go for the guns 10 out of 10 times. And she was just like, oh, really? Because, I'm a single mom and, they've seen boobs before and I don't care, but I would prefer not to show them violence. And I went, to each his own. And that's a lot of parents for you. There's stuff they're okay with their kids saying, there's stuff they're not okay with their kids saying, and they're not going to protest on the steps of the White House about it, but they will quietly quit a company over it. And that's what started to happen after Turning Red. I think Encanto was the same year. And everyone like, huh?
Year before 21.
No, but this is still 2021, if I remember correctly.
Oh, no, Turning Red came out in 22.
Oh, did it? Okay. So you had Encanto first, and that was a big enough hit, but we were still dealing with post-COVID, people not wanting to go to the movies. We were still dealing with, variants and stuff like that. So it was a very shaky...
Okay, hang on. Someone remind me. Lightyear or Turning Red came out first?
Turning Red
came out first.
In March, on my birthday.
Right. And then that was followed up by Lightyear, which was nobody wanted. It was like
you could not have misread every bit of your audience more than what they put out for Lightyear.
So aside from, the more messaging in Lightyear and it being nothing that anyone wanted from a Toy Story movie or a Toy Story adjacent movie. And I think it was Lightyear was, if you were looking for like a flashpoint where everyone just says, that's it, we're done. It was then. It was a historical bomb. And I don't think Disney's ever quite recovered from it.
I don't think it's a coincidence that the next thing Pixar announced they were doing was Inside Out 2.
Yeah.
And
Toy Story 5
too.
Yeah, all of it. But the other side of that
3.
is and then the follow-up to Lightyear was Strange World. And it's like
which nobody wanted, nobody saw.
Right, which nobody
Except
wanted,
for
nobody
us.
saw.
Who's happy to do a great review.
And go see their review. I wasn't on that one because I fell asleep through the first half and the second half cut off. The projector broke, if I remember correctly. So
Something
all of
like
this
that.
to say,
you were luckier. You were the lucky one.
If in 2018 you're working at Disney and you're going, the world is our oyster. It's nothing but sand and surf from here on in. We got this made. Let's get this movie that celebrates the 100-year history of Disney and Disney animated movies. We got this, everybody. And it takes forever to make this movie. And you finally get there. You get to 2023. And from 2020 to 2023, you haven't made a single solitary movie anyone wanted to see. And you've done a bunch of stuff to piss your audience off. And then you go, shit, you threw a party. And this is the point. Wish is this giant party celebrating Disney for all the little and middle women out there. And most of them stayed home. Most of them didn't watch. Most of them didn't come to the party. And Disney's like, got the hat on and the woo, And it's like, why did no one come to my party?
Let me tell you what this is. This is a party with where the invitation was dated wrong.
This is a Sweet 16 party for a girl that nobody in the high school likes.
But used to be a hot girl. That's the thing. This girl came into school in September and was hotsy-totsy, double D boobs and, wore pink. And she was just, the toast of the town. And by the time we got to her Sweet 16 in spring, she's a whore. No one likes her anymore.
Just so much acne.
Someone spread a rumor she had syphilis. It's awful. She got mean girled. And that's the end of that. Nobody shows up to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, that's kind of how we arrived at where we. And look, we'll talk about this a little bit. I don't want to derail the money too much when we get there, but Disney, I think, has only had one movie all year that's actually made money.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Elemental for some reason.
Elemental might have squeaked out of bomb territory, but
to support his
Because of
point,
international sales.
Yeah.
Elemental made money. It underperformed, and look, not to. The problem is we throw words out there, and words and words have meaning. There's bombed, nobody liked it. There's bombed, nobody saw it. And they are not the same thing. And that's and so we like, well, it made money. Yes, but things can make money and still not make what they were projected to make. And that was the problem with Elemental, because the people at Disney with Lizard Brain are still thinking everything Pixar does is going to make Toy Story money. And boy, are we not living in that world anymore. that world got snipped by the Time Variance Authority.
I'm
just
other...
tired to. Sorry, go. I'm saying I'm tired of.
No, stop, Robert. Then Alexis, because Alexis, then I want whatever it is you're going to say. Then go into your soapbox. Go.
Okay. I think it needs to be said out loud also. Like the moment people started turning on Pixar, Toy Story 4, that movie was a. Look, it made money. We reviewed it, but
made over $1 billion.
Something about that movie, and I can tell you what pissed me off about it. But I think what annoyed me about it annoyed a lot of people. That was kind of the point when a lot of people, like, you shouldn't have done that one. Like the way you handled that was bad, and you're still paying for it. It was
one of those. The canary was very deep in the coal mine, so I don't think anyone heard it, but it was there. Alexis, go.
Yeah.
And my problem with Toy Story 4 was just that Toy Story 3 had the absolute best ending in the world. It's essentially like Alien 3. It's like you wrapped up everything so perfectly with Alien 2/Aliens. You know, the ending of the movie was great. And then along comes Alien 3 and it's like, oh, then none of that mattered. Same with Toy Story 4. You gave us this terrific ending. And then it's like, okay, none of that mattered. You know, I just felt so extra and annoying. No, my biggest problem that I've had so far with Wish is that we have been getting this a lot lately, is that every time a movie bombs, everyone starts saying, well, why is it bombing? Oh, it's because of all the haters. It's because of all the people seeing problems with this.
The lowest hanging fruit.
Exactly. And I have already talked to like 3 people who are saying that the problem with why Wish is underperforming is because of problems with Disney Plus oversaturating the market. And it's because of people who are sick to death of Disney because of their layoffs. And I'm sitting there going, is it entirely possible, guys, that the reason that this movie is underperforming is because it's not good? This wasn't a good movie. I'm sorry. I wanted to like this movie. I love Disney. I still do. Before you came on, Mark, Zach and I were joking. We're both wearing shirts that we wore at Disney World. He's got, look, I got the shirt I got at Galaxy's Edge. I still love Disney. And I wanted to like this.
Not much more Disney than this one.
We're in Disney, maybe, but...
You should have stuck that for the next horror review, man.
Look, I thought about it. It fits perfectly with the themes of this movie we're reviewing about. Reject tyranny, obey the tentacle monster from the stars.
I want to piggyback on something you said there, Alexis, because it goes to a bigger problem. Everyone's always looking for the simplest solutions, and many times the simplest solution is the right one. The simplest answer is the right one. But I think also there's a couple of things. I don't want to say it and then go into a tangent on it. So just accept that I'm saying it and great. But it's cool to hate Marvel now. It's cool to hate Star Wars. It's cool to hate Disney. It's cool to hate all things Disney. Because for the longest time, smart people saw the problems with Disney, screamed about it. No one listened. And then Disney.
If you don't mind one caveat to that, it's not just no one listened.
Mm-hmm.
You and I did this. We're not the smartest people in the world, but Mark, for a few years now, you and I have been kind of going, hey now. You weren't just ignored, you were derided. You were insulted, you were belittled.
Right. And then the world caught up to the smart people, as is what often happens, because the smart people are usually 2 or 3 leagues ahead. And then the world catches up, and then the world starts parroting everything that the smart people said. And by that point, the smart people have already moved on to something else. So the fact that we are now in post-Disney bullying makes no never mind to me, because these people are just copying what the smart people said 3 and 4 years ago. I don't give a fuck. And so like a lot of these were like, oh, well, it's the haters. Disney's problems are like a lot of companies' problems. Institutional correction doesn't happen overnight. Institutional falling apart.
You can't change. You can't change corporate culture on a dime.
You can't change any culture. Any kind of giant institution doesn't fall apart overnight, and it doesn't repair itself overnight. You know, the kinds of changes that you need to make, the kind of change. I mean, when you think of, that's why we went through the whole like thing about here. If it started in 2019, and let's say Wish it's at its zenith of things going badly, like here, like in 4 years, we're going to look back at this and go, this was the lowest point. At the end of 2023 with Wish, Disney was at its fucking lowest. They couldn't buy a win. They are the Milwaukee Bucks of movies. Okay,
RC Cola.
There you go. And then 2 or 3 years later, we're looking back and like, oh, and it got better after that. They fired everyone in the messaging department. They, you know, then they started listening to the families that are their core audience, and they turned things around. And it took a while to build back that trust. It takes about 3 to 5 years to rebuild trust in your product, but we got there. But right now we're in the death throes of things that started 3 and 4 years ago already. But most people don't take the time or the thoughtfulness to think about these things. They just sort of react to the culture around them. And right now the culture around them is Disney sucks.
I hosted / participated in 3 shows the week before Thanksgiving, and 2 of them ended up into over an hour-long discussion of how to fix Marvel.
You know what? At least there's enough fan base left for Marvel to where people still think about fixing it.
But here's the thing. I don't want us to talk about how we need to fix Disney.
I don't know how you
and how Wish is an example of this. Wish is not... I am not looking at Wish as the pinnacle of what has been the worst year for Disney since freaking Something Wicked This Way comes.
Let me jump in here and say, I don't think Wish is the worst thing that they've done. Wish just happens to be the unfortunate byproduct of an audience that left this company. I think if Wish comes out 4 years ago, it's a big hit.
That's fine.
I think if Wish comes out in 5 years, it's a big hit. Wish is the unfortunate byproduct of a audience that has abandoned this company because the company they feel abandoned them first.
I disagree.
Okay, go ahead.
I disagree. I don't think this movie would have been a big hit depending on the year. I don't think going in, if people had a more positive attitude towards Disney, things would have been different. I believe this is a bad movie. And I do not believe that the general outlook on it is due to people being sick of Disney, being tired of it, being just like, oh my God, we're so freaking tired of the mouse. We're tired of our corporate overlords. It's a bad movie.
You and I are not saying different things. You and I are saying the same thing differently. Because I'm not really debating the merits of the movie just yet. We haven't gotten there yet. Yeah. Robert has to still do his plot synopsis.
I was just saying that you're saying that in 3 or 4 years, if it had been released, it would have been a hit. I'm saying no, it still would have sucked.
We are not okay. Listen to what I'm saying. Okay, it's not a good movie. In 4 years, it's still not going to be a good movie. I'm telling you that in 4 or 5 years, the audience won't care because the audience tends to like things that are not good. I can name you 20 examples, and Robert can name you the last half century of Western culture. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, maybe I am trying to be a little more optimistic and hope that people would see in 4 years that no, this is still a stupid movie.
What podcast do you think you're on?
I will acquiesce to what you're saying solely for the grounds of moving it along because I do not want to turn this into a debate of how smart people are.
Avatar
since I know I'm gonna lose.
Avatar 2 made like $2 billion. That's not. There's no winning that argument.
I know.
All right, Zach has been patiently waiting for a movie review podcast to start, so let's start the podcast. Plot synopsis, baby.
Wait, we've been recording? All right. So the story of Wish opens in traditional Disney fashion. They actually open the storybook, and then we follow the story, which was a nice touch. We follow the Kingdom of Rosas, which is in an island deep in the Mediterranean Sea. And it has a king who is voiced by Chris Pine, and he has the power to grant wishes. So his deal is anyone from anywhere can come to Rosas and it'll be great. You have to give me your wishes. You forget that you ever had them. And once I have taken away your motivation, you will be a good little worker ant and only focus on done or undone. It's communism. All right, look, the only Disney movie they didn't reference here was Sword in the Stone. If I have to throw a Once and Future King reference in there to make it work, I will.
Good boy. You're a good boy, Robert. Move on.
So that's the deal. And people come, and it's great, and they build up this kingdom, and we're introduced to Asha, who has a 100-year-old grandfather, turning 100 years.
Sorry.
Yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
And he's getting old, and he really hopes that his wish will be granted. You see, a few times a year. I forget exactly.
I think it was once a month.
Yeah, give or take. He said at one point he did like 14 the previous year, so on a somewhat regular basis, to the tune of double digits a year, the king will select a random citizen, and will grant their wish. And everyone's good with this. Again, it all kind of works out. And Asha is in the running to become the king's apprentice, and this is how she gets her exposition dumps for the audience. And we meet her cadre of goofball associates. We're totally not references to other Disney movies. Don't look too closely at this. And she
not
goes
even wearing the same colored clothing.
Yeah. So she gets an interview with the king, and there's songs throughout this, and the king's like, yeah, here's all the wishes, and she finds her grandfather's and like, hey, could you grant him his wish? He's 100 years old. And he takes the wish and he goes, his wish was to inspire the next generation. Beautiful, but way too vague. I have used the wish spell in Dungeons and Dragons before, and you word that very specifically, or this goes sideways in a hurry.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, then can I at least give it back to him so he can remember what it was? Like, you'd break his heart like that? You'd give him a wish that can never be? That's cruel. How dare you? Like, there's this piece of him just floating in this ball, and what do you mean? Like, people should be free, Mark, free to follow their heart's desires and free to.
Can we not act like that's a terrible thing in
I'm
isolation?
not.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
When we get to the craft, if I want to talk about how badly the trailer misrepresented elements of this, it felt like
You can
baiting.
talk about all kinds of things, but you're just like, oh, and he had hope. Let's kick a guy because he has hope. Like, let's not.
Or let's. So, again, this all goes bad. This goes badly because Asha is an idealistic 17-year-old and Chris Pine is Chris Pine. And eventually there's a wish granted to someone who had a very benign wish to make the most beautiful dresses in all the land. And he kind of threatens like, yeah, I'm going to keep your grandfather's wish and your mother's too. And they'll be nice and safe. And Asha's all mopey. And she goes and explains that this is what's happening. And her grandfather's like, why are you threatening the status quo? Don't do that. I'm okay with this. Don't taunt me with things that can never be, woman. And she gets all heartbroken. It's like, but I just want things to be better. And she runs out and she sings her feelings to the sky. And the blue fairy comes down. No, wait, sorry. She wishes upon a star. And not quite Kirby, but one of the Kirby monsters.
That was Zach.
They could actually sue for that now that I think about it. There are some very striking design similarities.
I wasn't thinking Kirby. I was thinking the Lumas from Super Mario Galaxy. Side note, the nihilistic Luma from the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Gotcha.
That too. So the star descends and magic goes off, and the king's like, "Wait a minute, there's magic, and I didn't do it. This strikes me as odd. Probably should look into this." because, bad things tend to happen. And the star is kind of bouncing around the forest, and it animates mushrooms and animals and trees and plants, and the goat that Asha carries around with her starts to talk.
Alan Tudyk deserved better.
He did. He really did. And the king goes a little bit mad, like trying to figure out what happened, and he thinks about going for dark magic. And his wife talks him down from that particular ledge. It's not a good thing. Like, yeah, you know what? You're right. We can try something else. And Asha realizes the star is here to help her fulfill her wish, which was to make things better. She didn't like the status quo, wants it to be better, and the star's like, okay, I'll help you do that. You ain't gonna like how we have to get there, but we'll do it. And they're able to sneak back in. They steal her grandfather's wish and give it back to him, and he's all happy. And then the king shows up, because of course he does. She was betrayed by one of her friends who had turned 18 and given up his wish, and he was promised that if anyone who rats on Asha gets their wish granted. And things fall apart a little bit. Eventually, all of her other friends kind of rally around the idea. Look, and the king really descends into super dark magic because the people suck. It's kind of the long and the short of it. He's like, look, guys, I've kept the peace. Help me find out what happened. And they're like, but what's in it for us?
All right,
And all of a sudden, everyone starts going, wait, plot holes. There's plot holes. Can you explain the plot holes?
So real quick,
people are the worst.
And not to get too personal, but when Sean and I did the director focus on Baz Luhrmann, we talked about Moulin Rouge, and I'm like, the problem with this movie is identified with the villain. I've given you protection. I've given you money. I've done everything for you. I have made you the most happy and secure woman I possibly could, and yet you run to the poor bum musician, you bitch. And I'm like, I get you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to identify with Ewan McGregor, but here I am. And so I'm watching this movie, and the guy goes, I have done everything for these people. I have protected them. I have been a benevolent king, and you turn on me like this? And I'm going, I have to stop identifying with the men voicing the thoughts in my brain. Go on.
I'll say, can we at least agree that thanks to that and Chris Pine's performance, we get what is probably the best part of this movie, and it is a very good villain song.
You and I are gonna have to disagree about that.
Okay,
Yeah,
I like the villain song. Sorry.
In the interest of not always disagreeing with Alexis, I'm gonna go ahead and say I agree with Alexis because honestly, it was fine.
Look, I'm happy to talk it out when we get to it, but not my favorite.
But let me tell you, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to him talk about like you ungrateful bitches, and I'm like, shit.
It's incredibly telling that so many Disney villains are easily identifiable. If you've just lived life a little bit, you easily identify more with Disney villains the longer your life goes.
That's certainly been my experience.
Look, you don't with the good ones. Like the best Disney villains, it doesn't matter how long you live. Like you still don't identify with them. You might understand them, but you don't identify with them.
Right.
Then, part of the writing problem at the moment. Hey, how do we look? We'll make this king, okay? And what's he'll do? He'll steal everyone's hopes and dreams. Boy, that's pretty bad. Seems like an evil guy.
As a cultural psychology study, it is amazing if you look at the writing of a lot of modern Hollywood, why it's not resonating with people, because the people writing it are so off kilter from the way society should be operating.
There was a nice little video essay I saw about this. They called it the sympathetic straw man.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about how because people want to project their arguments into film, you have to construct an avatar for the opposition, right?
Right.
Now, ideally, this is a nuanced character that you simply disagree with. When you're a bad writer, you write John Walker, who is one of the most eminently sympathetic characters in your stupid television show, but because he's X, he's the bad guy.
Well, there was a movie in the last few years where they gave a line to a character, and you and I laughed about it hard because the line is supposed to make you hate that character, and we were like, no, that character's in the. Oh, it was the Forever Purge. That was another one. That was another one where they gave the racist line to the white guy, and we're all going, but he's right. This is you not understanding. This is you not understanding the population and what they want is the problem here.
That was definitely one of them. So they concoct a plan to free the wishes. The star will give them back to the people that originally made them, and all will be well.
Mm-hmm.
This goes sideways. The king is able to capture the star, and he is now all powerful, and he locks everyone down, and he's gone mad with power, and dark magic has corrupted his soul. And if you do dark magic even once, Mark, that's it for you. There's no coming back.
It's like heroin.
Can I tell you how stupid that line was? Like, I wanted to throw something.
Yeah, there's no turning back. He's gone too far. We can't save him. Couldn't he just have been evil to begin with? Please excuse me while I go stop my dog from barking.
Good. No, that's a giant flaw in the writing. Like, he really needed to be evil from the beginning. Like, much more overtly than they made him. It's big miss. But so he goes super evil. He's lost his mind, and everyone turns around and they sing at him, and this works.
Yes, they won the day through the power of song.
Everyone sings
which I'm going to try. If I'm ever out like Ubering or something and I get like carjacked, I'm just going to start like, my Adidas. And like, oh, he yelled my Adidas at me by Run DMC, and like he scurries away from me. I'm going to try this whenever I'm in trouble.
I apparently picked a really weird part to come back into the conversation.
So the entire population overcomes the evil sorcerer king with song is what we arrive at.
And I said that'd be a great thing to try in real life. That whenever you're in trouble with somebody, if you're getting like robbed or mugged or whatever, just start singing at your assailant.
This is enough to break his magic. He gets sucked into a glass prison. Everyone's wishes are returned to them, and everyone lives happily ever after.
Zach Strobel has been waiting 90 minutes to talk. Zach, tell us every thought you've ever had.
Well, let me put on my glasses so I appear smarter.
My God, you genius.
Well, it would be you genius if we didn't have your reflection in the lenses, unfortunately.
Leave him alone. Stop bullying him.
Well, if you're just joining us, we're not talking about this head or that elbow. We're talking about Disney. I've been waiting a very long time to make that joke.
Okay, I'm glad you got that out of your system. Please keep going before I kick you off the podcast.
And I regret nothing.
Good for you.
Yeah. So I feel like I didn't really hate this movie, but I didn't like it as much. First of all, what I mean by that is, it's ironic. For 100 years, they advertise at least that for 100 years we've been making this movie. Well, you made the most rushed movie ever made. You waited till it's like you waited the night before, because this was rushed. It felt in every part of it, like the pacing, the animation, which I'm just gonna get it out of the way. I did not like this animation. It looked like a PS2 cutscene, but for a whole movie. And I get it. I respect what they were trying to do, but the execution is awful. If you wanted to make it look 2D, you should have made it 2D. But they're not willing to do that because 2D doesn't sell anymore. But the thing was, even with the backgrounds, I could give it credit. It looked like they went through a filter. But let's compare to this to something from Bambi or Snow White, which is what they're obviously trying to do. Those have so much detail. These look really muted colors. I didn't think this movie looked pretty. I thought the color scheme was pretty yucky. And
the word you're looking for is the color paletting was muddled.
Muddled, thank you.
If you've ever painted on a canvas and you're like me and you're sloppy with your paints and everything starts mixing together and it looks like a glob, it looks like they painted with the glob.
Yeah, it looks like they forgot to wash their paintbrushes between switching paint colors.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they did that, and it just, I don't know, it just didn't look. I mean, obviously they tried to make it, but it like I tried, like it was in the theater, like maybe if I squint my eyes, it looked 3D. Nope, still looks like garbage. My eyes hurt now. That was me. But that's not like the only problem. I just feel like with the movie, it just felt like, I don't know. It just felt like it like had all the check boxes where it's like, okay, it is a Disney movie. It's not a great Disney movie, but it's a Disney movie, and we did it. There are some good things I like in the movie. Like, I like that we actually got a villain. I know, a Disney movie with a villain, but when was the last time we had like not a twist villain or a villain that was misunderstood? I just wanted like a bad guy, and it delivered on that. And he was a good bad guy. I liked him. I liked the performance. I like his design. I like that he crushes the dreams of others. Yeah, he's a jerk. So he made a jerk. I like some of the music. Knowing what we know now is a bop. It is a bop for kids. It is a kid's bop. That's all I'm allowed to listen to at work. And it is, so I like making that reference.
So you big fan of the Blue Man Group, huh?
Yes. But
I'm sorry, that's all I could think about during that entire song was just, okay, so this is what we're doing. Okay.
no, but also it actually felt like the only song that was like, okay, this part actually feels like a Broadway musical song. Like, and I like that it got the cast in it, which besides the reference, like to the Seven Dwarfs, like we didn't need that many characters. And I thought it was going to be a heist movie. I actually thought that's where it was going. It would have been Disney's Ocean's 8, because there were 8 of them. So I thought that would have been cool, but it didn't. I just like every time I thought it was going to be something cool, it just was like, nope. And I don't know. I mean, I don't recommend the movie just because it isn't very good, but I like you guys, like, I don't want Disney to go away. I want them to stick around so they can make better stuff. I mean, they got their work cut out for them, but
Do they?
Yes. All right.
But yeah, that was pretty much my thoughts on it. Good villain, yucky, muddled animation. It was a decent effort, but I mean, I would have just wait. I hate saying this, but I would just wait till Disney Plus.
That's not a fair like recommendation. Because I think somebody asked me about it, and I kind of said the same thing. I'm like, it's fine. You'll love it when it comes on Disney Plus. And I made the comment about all the little and the middle women of the world. The 40-year-old children, and they're all gonna love it when it's on Disney Plus, and they'll watch it 20 times. But
Like long Tumblr posts decrying everyone who didn't go pay to go see it in theaters.
Yeah, I guarantee you, in about 3 months, I'm gonna hear one of my friends go, "I don't understand why this didn't make any money," and I'm gonna run directly into traffic, and they won't know why.
All you have to do is ask them, "Well, did you pay to see it?"
Yeah. All right, Alexis.
If they say no, just go.
Tell me your thoughts on God and whether you'd really like to meet her.
Jeez, where do I begin? Seriously, I have like a whole thing of notes here. The plot makes no sense about giving away your wishes and your memories. So, I mean, I remember watching the trailer and thinking, like, so most of these wishes won't come true. And I was like, well, yeah, if they're wishing for something impossible or dangerous, obviously it's not going to come true. But that's not what they were talking about.
Can you imagine? Like, what? I will grant every single wish. That is what I do. I am a benevolent king. I wish that it would rain ninja stars. I feel like that's not a good idea. You said you'd grant my wish.
Yeah, no, we saw that in Bruce Almighty, remember?
Yes.
This is why you don't say yes to all.
Yeah, remember? It's like...
There have been 8 million people who won the lottery. We're trying to sort this out.
Exactly. They was like, I only won 17 cents. Yeah. So I didn't understand that. And again, I remember thinking when I saw the trailer, I'm like, well, I'm sure when I see the movie, it'll make sense. Like, no, I'm even more confused now.
I'm a little more on board when they said, no, you're not just giving your wish to the king. You're going to forget that you ever had it. At that point, I'm a little bit more on board with the okay. We're leaning villainous here because you're taking away someone's like essential motivation.
Right.
Yeah, but why
And-
were they all on board for it? That was part of the Welcome to Rosas song that they sang. And they were
Yeah,
saying that like it was a good
I think it was
thing.
I think it was a Faustian bargain thing. If we give this, I think it was one, we're paying for the protection of the country with these wishes. Two, there's the chance that I'll win the lottery and get my wish granted. I think that's the bargain that they're making. It's like, here, we'll give this to you. You'll in turn protect us, and maybe this will come back around, and I'll get my wish granted. That's, I think, how that was supposed to work. It's dumb, but that's how it's supposed to work.
That
Okay.
part of the problem with that, and this is a narrative and a world building thing. One, setting this in the real world was a mistake, straight up. Two, if you want his deal to make sense, the rest of the world has to suck, and we need to see that. Even if it's just in your opening, even if it's just your opening crawl, like, oh, the rest of the world is kind of messed up. This guy created a safe haven.
Hold that thought, because it's good, and I want you to continue it. But Alexis was in the middle of her thing.
Although I do agree with you on that. The Kingdom of Rosas has no personality whatsoever. We've talked a lot about how the last few Disney movies that we've seen, not all of them, but a lot of them have really gone into effort to give personality to the location. I think Encanto with the casita or Jungle Cruise with the river, they have personality. Nothing about Rosa stands out. I can't even figure, were they... I caught that some of the characters were speaking Spanish, but I couldn't really figure out what is the identity of this country.
I can tell you, it's horribly muddled. Again, they're deep in the Mediterranean, so we're speaking Spanish, Arabic, and what was the other one?
Greek.
Something similar to that.
Well, I'm just going to say, and a lot of the words, with the exception of Spanish, a lot of the words sounded like they were either really forced or they were just trying to shoehorn in stuff. It didn't sound natural. Again, Rosas has no collective identity. Hell, I gave Blue Beetle credit that they actually made the city that they were set in have an identity. And I like that. It's like, this fails where Blue Beetle succeeded. Thank you very much. The references. Sweet, merciful, Christ on a cracker, the references. I am not against references in a movie. I raved about them in Five Nights at Freddy's and the latest Spider-Verse movie. But this is not, oh, check out that fun little Easter egg. This is a movie grabbing us by the shoulders and violently shaking us saying, get it! Get it!
Yeah, this is me. This is me doing a dad joke. Hey, real quick, somebody asked me about that. I said, I took my kids to go see Wish over the weekend. They were like, are you going to, and I'm like, we're going to talk about it on Monday on my podcast. And they go, are you going to talk about all the Easter eggs? I'm like, if we do, I'll fucking shoot myself live on the show.
Yeah. I mean, now I will go to what Zach was saying about the villain, but this actually leads to, I think, another bigger problem with this, because yes, he is, now I'll admit his plot makes no sense, and how quickly he turns into a psycho makes no sense. Because I can't even figure out for the life of me why he was holding the wishes captive in the. I thought we were going to find out like he was using the wishes to keep himself immortal, or he was draining them to keep his power going or something. And it's just like, no, he's just holding on to the wishes for the hell of it. But they let him have more animation. He's a little more squash and stretch. He's much more expressive than the other characters, which adds to him and. Plus to Chris Pine's performance, I give credit. He's a great actor, and I think he does good with what he's given. But by doing that, it shows how all the other characters are incredibly limited. It's just it's not making him look more engaging. It's making everyone else look like they're dialed back about 20 levels. And the music. I believe you mentioned in the chat, Robert, about how you felt that Lin-Manuel Miranda has... Because, this is clearly... Well, we want Lin-Manuel Miranda again since he did such a great job with Moana and Encanto. Well, we can't get him. Well, we got this other person. Tell them we want him to be like Lin-Manuel Miranda. This music very much so comes across like we're trying to be Lin-Manuel Miranda. But, of course, I can't insult Lin-Manuel Miranda because he's one of my favorite composers. But it feels like that... You're welcome to.
Alexis, if you are continuing to take classes at the Radulich University and you're like a senior now, you're in your final year, you're almost ready to get your degree. I need you to pass the class in killing your babies. You can insult Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's okay. You can say someone you like did a bad thing. It's okay.
What? No, Lin-Manuel Miranda didn't do a bad thing. The composer who was trying to be Lin-Manuel Miranda did the bad thing.
No, you're like, I can't. No, you're like, I can't insult Lin-Manuel Miranda because I like him. I'm like, but you totally can. We'll get you there, honey. We'll get you
okay,
there.
fine. When he pisses me off that much, I'll insult him. But no, I am not insulting. I am not insulting him over this movie. Okay, I am insulting the composer and clearly the executives who told that composer go try to be Lin-Manuel Miranda because that's what this movie is.
We need Lin-Manuel Miranda for this animated movie. Well, he's fucking busy and really expensive right now.
Get me the non-union Mexican equivalent.
Can you get me the Lin-Manuel Miranda artificial intelligence? Yes, we can.
Robert, I applaud whenever you can find a random Simpsons reference to throw into our reviews. Bravo. But again,
it's Disney, so non-union's a given.
Now, when I saw the trailer for this, I actually thought what they were going to do was find out that he had usurped power from someone else. Hell, I thought he maybe had usurped power from the Queen and used his magic to brainwash her, because we see segments of her in the trailer where she's praising him. And I thought it was going to be that he is using magic to control everyone, that the people are willingly giving up their wishes because he's brainwashing them. The
more we talk about this, the more I'm thinking there was a great script here that every time they like, hey, what if we do a heist? No. That's going to upset people. What if we have a brainwashed queen and he took the power from her? No. We don't want to do that to women. That'll piss off women. And
that's so problematic. We can't do that.
Every time a good idea was picked. Every time a good idea was pitched, there was somebody like a standards and practices person, bow tie, right to censor, the whole deal. It was just going, don't do that. You'll upset people. We're Disney. We're middle of the road. We're family entertainment. And by the time they were done, it was just like, this is the blandest, fucking nondescript, inoffensive thing we've ever done. And they're like, great. It'll make $1 million because that's what sells. And
now, see, I assumed they didn't cut the good ideas because they were worried about standard and practices. I was figuring they cut the good ideas because every time someone suggested that, somebody in the executive office said, "Hey, instead of that, how about we throw in a reference where we have the bear named John and the deer named Bambi?"
That's also, I can also imagine that too. So I hear what you're saying about this good idea, but what if we just do a reference? Kids like the references.
Yeah, again,
we watched the Member Berries episode of South Park and took it literally.
Someone pointed that out online. Someone else, another reviewer pointed out. It's like, it's just, they basically said, just like, what did they say? Do Disney and Stone and Parker have a freaking alliance going on? Are they feeding each other information?
They watched that episode and took all the wrong lessons from Member Berries.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the references were painful.
Much like they're still making them seem like prophets for put a chick in it and make it gay.
So many of the side characters, I can't even remember half the characters' names. I think the 7 best friends who are the 7 dwarves. I actually looked up the actors. Simon, Sleepy, the one who betrays him. That's Evan Peters. That's the guy. That's friggin' Jeffrey Dahmer voicing him. And I love Evan Peters. I adore him. And I'm like, you gave one of my favorite actors a role. And for the life of me, I couldn't feel anything. It's like, why would you cast Evan Peters just to have him perform one of the most generic roles on the planet?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I swear to God, when they hired Harvey, whatever his last name is, to play the character who's grumpy, I swear that the finer line said, "Play less grumpy, more bitchy." Because it's like, no, that's because
there's a line between those two, yeah.
Because I watched him, I was like, "You're not grumpy, you're just pissy." Just getting annoying, and he's a good voice actor. I loved him in Puss in Boots: Last Wish.
Okay. Anything else before I jump in?
This movie sucks. There's no giant conspiracy to undermine Disney. They just put no freaking effort into this film, and it shows.
Okay, so I don't want to echo every single thing you guys said. So if I agreed with it, I agreed with you, and I don't need to repeat it. A couple of things I didn't think were said, or I'd like to say stronger. the thing about an animated Disney feature is the fact that it is a musical, and because the music stands out. I saw an article today that referenced Frozen, and because God hates this world and we take all the wrong lessons, there's going to be a Frozen 3 and a Frozen 4, and there are people out there giving interviews right now going, we're really excited about the story that we're telling. Yeah.
What story?
Frozen
2 was contrivances wrapped up in pretty dresses.
I know, Alexis. I'm not saying I agree. I am repeating the hostage letter they had to read to Variety. Anyway, say what you will about Frozen, and it's dumb, but it looks gorgeous and the music was memorable. Say what you want to say about Encanto, the music was memorable. Most of the Disney musicals stay with us. I mean, when you think about the Disney Renaissance, Be Our Guest, Part of Your World, Jesus Christ, everything in Aladdin,
Hakuna
Matata.
Everything in like Aladdin and the Lion King have like two of the best top to bottom soundtracks you'll ever find.
Right. Look, Tarzan sucks, but everyone remembers the Elton John song. So
Phil Collins.
First of all, Phil Collins. Sure. Second of all, no.
Everyone but Robert.
Anyway, Elton John did Lion King.
Sure. The one, the white guy with the piano. Anyway, listen.
Wow.
Phil Collins
any more vague? Can you make that any more vague a statement, Mark?
And for the record,
I can if you really push me.
Like Phil Collins isn't known for playing the piano; he's known for playing the drums.
Anywho, this has no memorable music into it. There was, did I hate the music? No. Did I love the music? No. And I think that's the problem. Love it or hate it, good or bad, Disney always gives you something you'll remember. And if I had to come up with another name from this movie, it's the bland and the reference, because that's all I remember about this movie.
To the point about music, my general rule of thumb is if a Disney musical can give me at least 2 songs that kind of stick with me, you generally call it a win, right?
Look, the Radulich and Broadcasting Network is nothing if not toxic masculine, full of toxic masculines. No, we are manly men, even Alexis, giant penis, all of us, and and for the longest time, everybody on this fucking network, do you want to build a snowman? I mean, like if you can get a bunch of
hang on. Let's be fair, 80% of that was Jason.
But we all ran with it.
How about we don't talk about Bruno? We all had that song stuck in our head.
Yeah, like I said, Disney always produces an earworm. I walked out of that movie and I could not, on my kid's life, I couldn't remember a fucking song from that movie. Like if right now you played a couple of songs from me, and some of these are in the movie and some of them are just songs, I couldn't tell you which one's which. I think when I was in the movie, there was ones where I was kind of jiving in my chair a little bit and I was into it, but they didn't stay with me, and I just named a half a dozen songs that have stayed with me for the last 20 years. The plot of this makes zero sense, and like, I'm not stupid. I can, generally speaking, follow a Disney movie, but I couldn't follow this movie. And I'm like, I don't understand why things are happening. And it's funny because I always think about the psychology article that was written about even toddlers will not be able to give attention to a story if the story doesn't make any sense. That is a psychological trigger. Narrative has to be focused and not linear necessarily, but it has to track, or you lose people's attention. And for a good portion of this movie, I'm like, I don't know why this is happening. I don't know why this is happening. Takes me right out of the movie. I think the worst offense of that was, and it seems like there was a lot of things done in this movie because it would be funny, which is a comment I've made about a lot of movies now, where I feel like,
hey, here's a chicken song and dance number.
Well, you think about like Ghostbusters, the comedy, the original, the comedy, the comedy in Ghostbusters flows naturally. They weren't singing like, wouldn't it be funny if Bill Murray kept shocking a nerd? No, they wrote a scene that just made him seem like a scumbag, and it happens to be funny. Wouldn't it be funny if Dan Aykroyd got jerked off by a phantom? No, but it ends up being funny when you see it when you see it on the screen. So there's a whole bunch of things that happen. There's a couple of lines that were written where I don't think anyone knew how they were going to land. Then it came out of Bill Murray's mouth, and it's hilarious. He slimed me is a pretty innocuous thing. It is, in fact, what happened. Slimer ran him the fuck over, covered in slime, and they're like, Bill Murray, what happened? He slimed me. But he says it like he's in a Wes Anderson movie. And people laugh hysterically at that. It's timeless now.
Slimed me. That's great. Get a sample.
It's like, it's not just that; it's the reaction to it.
Right, Egon, your mucus. Fuck, I still say that to people whenever I hand them anything.
Dropping off or picking up.
Right. So anyway,
Janine, sorry about the bug eyes thing.
Right. That's another one I do. Whenever I come home and I have to check it with my kids. Did you have any customers? Doing a hell of a job, Janine. Anyway, my point being that there's too much in this movie.
You were paying for this stuff.
There's too much in this movie that felt like it was done because somebody in the room said, well, this is funny. It's not organic, it's not authentic, it doesn't come naturally from the interactions between characters. It's like it's us doing this podcast. We make jokes, we make fun of stuff, and we go, wouldn't it be funny if? But we're not trying to tell a movie, we're trying to crack each other up and maybe make somebody who's watching this laugh. That's not how you write a movie, though. You don't write a movie the way you talk to your friend, and that's half the problem with movies now. So the worst offender of this was the talking donkey, because as great as Alan Tudyk is, and as funny as some of the lines he says is, it's juvenile. It's like low hanging fruit. It is just the dumbest. You found the secret passage. I feel like my butt found it. And if you're five, that's funny.
Hang on. Let me tell you the one line of his that cracked me up.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one that kind of popped me, because the star character has that ball of wool, and he just goes, "My mother was shorn for that wool. Treat it with respect."
My only time I laughed at that was when Asha jumped in the water and he jumped after her with a big smile on his face, saying, "I cannot swim."
Yeah, but that's carried by Alan Tudyk's performance. That has nothing to do with the writing. But again, I don't know why that they had. Other than Disney's have talking animals. This is like Checklist, the movie. Like Disney's have talking animals. We have to have a talking animal. But why does the animal talk? Because it needs to talk. Disney's have talking animals. That's not a good enough reason.
Why did all the animals in the woods start? Was that their wish that they all wanted? Was that the mushrooms and the flowers wish?
That's the other thing is why did this so Asha's like, I want to fix the problem with my grandfather and the wishes in this whole situation. It all sucks. Okay, then the wishing star comes down. And you think give her the power to fight the bad guy and correct the problem, which they don't really ever get to, but instead just starts granting random wishes. And I'm like, I don't understand how this world works or what this character does.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't know how much of that was wishes. I don't know how much of that was just, hey, it's the magic inherent to the wishing star is.
Right.
Okay, here's my problem. Here's part of my issue with this.
Mm-hmm.
This might just be me, but by the time this thing wrapped, I kind of went, is Disney retroactively trying to tell an origin story for the Disney universe?
Oh, I think that's what they were getting to, but they did it in a piss poor way.
I was going to say, if that was actually the plan, then if they carried it out a little bit more, I think this could have been a good movie. I actually would have been happy if finding out Asha was the original fairy godmother. I think that would have been a great plot twist.
One of my kids came up with that. They were just like, "Oh, she's the fairy godmother" or some shit like that. I think somebody said that in the movie too, where they were just like, "You could be our fairy godmother," and she's like, "No."
Well, I saw it coming a mile away. She was wearing the blue robe that the fairy god, the blue robe with the purple ribbon.
But that's the other thing.
She has a magic wand.
We talked about they don't fully commit to any of the good ideas. They just they just sort of walk this bland line. But I think also this almost feels like a self-loathing Disney movie. Like it's people who work for Disney but kind of hate Disney, and it's like, well, make a movie that celebrates Disney. Yeah, but Disney sucks. So it's a very
hang on.
self-loathing movie.
It's not just self-loathing. It's more, and this is going to come up when we talk about the god-awful Snow White adaptation that's coming up. If you don't actually appreciate and recognize what happened, like the talent and the beauty from what got you to where you are, you can't celebrate it.
Right.
I would guarantee you that nobody working on these movies looks back at the animated Snow White or Pinocchio or
Bambi.
Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty
Sleeping
with
Beauty.
anything approximating fondness. They'd look
So-
back at it and go, well, that kind of sucked, and here's all the reasons why. So when you ask them to be celebratory about the history, if all they look back on through the history is,
Have you ever?
forgive me for being overly broad, but like if the history is just the oppressive patriarchy, they don't want to celebrate it.
Okay, so I have to piggyback on that, because have you ever been at a party and you're just like, you know what my favorite movie is? Peter Pan, and you're talking to a person, they put down their shrimp cocktail and they go, what makes the red man red? You like that movie, you racist, and you just want to punch him in the throat. Like, stop.
Last time that happened, I did, in fact. Wasn't a punch, but
You know, like,
tiger's mouth. Just
you know, it's like, oh my god, I love Snow White. Snow White's such a great fairy tale. It's like,
it is.
it's like he
Of
kisses her
course.
without consent.
She might as well have been a corpse, and if he didn't, she wouldn't have gone anywhere.
But that's my point. Like, there's a cottage industry. There's a group of people, like, again, it's like the anti-Disney people, where they feel like they can't appreciate it. These people hate themselves, and so they have to take away something that you enjoy and find all the flaws with it. Like, look, there's plenty of flaws with Disney stuff. None of these shits is perfect, but they go out of their way to ruin it for you. And I feel like all those people got hired to make this movie.
Yeah.
Um,
Look, those are the people who are writing the new Snow White movie. You've heard Rachel Zegler's comments.
right.
Like, it's
Last thing,
just not going to go well.
yeah, the last thing I want to say about this is, while I enjoyed some of the references, it got overboard. You know, like him turning into the mirror at the end. I thought that was kind of funny. But
Again,
you know,
the plot twist had been he was the original magic mirror. That
Right.
you know, it's like he's the one who will become the evil queen's servant. I was like, again, that would have been awesome.
right. So one of the last things I'm going to say about this movie is, there was like the singing at the end of it, the singing at him. Oh, yeah, this is what it was. And this is what I'm starting to get to. Normally, Robert and I are like, please, why can't these movies be shorter? Oh my God, you did not earn a 2-hour runtime. You certainly didn't earn a 3-hour runtime. Oh my God, what are we doing? This is 3.5 hours. This was 90 minutes flat, if I remember correctly. Yeah, this clocks in at 95 minutes. And it, you know, Zachary used the word rushed. Like, it definitely feels like they were in a race to get the kids to the mall and get to things. And it was like, we only have 90. No one will sit through a 2-hour Disney movie anymore. We have 90 minutes. Get it done. And so this is slipshod. There's not enough to it. We use the word slight for a lot of movies, and sometimes I'm okay with slight, and other times slight is because they didn't put enough characterization in it, not enough motivation, not enough world building. This is the most diet Disney movie I've ever seen. Robert?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Sorry, I lost internet. My whole house. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
You're
just
good.
messaged you on Facebook. I was like, "Did we say something?" It's like, "Are you coming back?"
Sorry,
I
this
figured it was a
movie
camera
bad,
thing.
everyone.
Look, it wouldn't be one of our
broke
shows if one of us was having technical difficulties. Robert, hit it. And
All
try
right,
not to repeat everything that was just said.
I'm going to try not to, but you guys have done a pretty good job of expressing my general sentiments.
But you're so good at this that you can go last and find something new to say, baby,
I can.
sweetie.
I can. I mentioned this before, but there's an artistic choice here made, and this might work for you. It did not work for me. A lot of the backgrounds in this feel like they're either weird, like when I say illuminations, I mean like classic medieval illuminations, or like tapestries. There's more than one scene where everything in the background, it looks flat. It looks like the characters are talking in front of a screen that's been badly painted.
When you're switching, pitch back to me again, because I forgot something I needed to mention.
Okay. So that's a real problem. Alexis mentioned, like, the only character that actually has facial and character animation is Magnifico as the movie goes on. Everyone else is kind of stock, and it's
Like a little Flintstone-ish, right?
a little bit, yeah,
Mhm.
just a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big problem. I know how I would fix this movie, and I'm going to couch some of my criticism in again the following way, like how I would fix it. No wife for Magnifico. He's got to be more. It's okay if Asha's the first one to kind of see behind the curtain to how evil and manipulative he is, but there needs to be less redeeming qualities. Trying to play, you wound up in a weird spot with him where you tried to play it half pregnant, where he started as a good guy and he's got it. Like, this is a toddler's definition of character depth. He started as a good guy, but then, got a little paranoid, got a little power hungry, and then he touched the evil book one too many times, and now he can't be saved, and this justifies his horrible fate.
Just like Disney. Sorry.
And
He's not wrong.
He's not, but even by Disney standards, this is weak. And that's kind of the problem is, though, again, no wife. He's a little bit more objectively and earlier, more manipulative. You're trying to tell a story that's at least partially about authoritarianism here. Like, you may as well lean into that. And you don't. The entire middle of this movie, like the second act, is wildly unfocused and wildly muddled.
Okay, can I jump in here then? Because that was the one thing I forgot about. When they're deciding they're going to go after the king, this will not stand. They're going to band together and they're going to get the wishes. That song and what they're doing in that song, where I thought they were I thought it was like an A-team thing. Are they building like a catapult or something? Are they going to what are we doing? And then it's like they built a model so that it would look good in shadow, and that's it.
It's not quite. Look, let's do a compare and contrast, shall we? You've got basically one of these is like an evil song, and this is clearly a heroic song. But let's compare this scene with the mob song from Beauty and the Beast. It's doing the same thing, like it's at the same kind of point in the story, for the same purpose of galvanizing the action. One of these, the way it's structured and laid out, actually moves things forward. The other is self-indulgent wankery.
Yep.
You're still muted, Alexis.
God's sake.
I muted you because of the dog.
Sorry. I've been trying to shut him up. No, I thought there was a scene cut because, I thought they were building the model so they could say, okay, so the wishes are here.
Here's our plan.
That's what Zachary was saying. Like, we thought this was a heist, and this is like a miniature, so we know where the gold is in the vault. And then I don't know what. Then by the end, it's like, we made a pretty model. Look at the Lego we did. And then they cut away from the scene again. And I'm like, the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. Not to mention how quick the queen was to frickin' turn against her husband.
I've been married.
I'm more with Alexis on this one. Like, you display these two as having a deep, loving relationship that's gone on for quite some time at this point.
It's like, well, I don't really like him today, so I'm going to end the marriage.
Yeah, again,
the queen is not supposed to be that sociopathic. Otherwise, she wouldn't have allied with the rebels. She'd just stick with the guy in power.
Fair.
Yeah, again, the minute that he touched that evil book, she was just like, okay, no, he has to be stopped. I'm done with him. To the fact that she has no problem putting his soul in the mirror in a dungeon.
Yeah, to your point, without me making more wisecracks about terrible marriages, if we were going to do that, that had to have been a thread through the entire movie, not just a sudden change.
Or either that, or she needs to have foreknowledge about the contaminating powers of this book.
Yeah.
So that when she sees him reading it, she realizes, oh, like now we've gone, like that has to be reversed. Like, right. She can't be ignorant to what that book is capable of, or only knows it secondhand, because her seeing him, it's like, okay, I understand you're a recovering alcoholic, but quit drinking.
Well, it's funny you use that. It's funny you use that metaphor because I was thinking about, we never did the review because I got sequestered, but Alexis and I were supposed to do a comparison and contrast between the two Oxycontin shows.
Dope, Sick, and Painkiller.
Yeah, and then there was a bit in at least one of them where the wife is very aware of what the husband's doing, and the husband's like, "No, it's fine. I got this under control. No, I'm just in pain is all." And she's like, "Nope. You are addicted to Oxycontin and you're ruining this family. Get the fuck out." That's kind of what it needed to be.
Yeah, it's something like, again, where she has enough knowledge of what's going on to see what's happened and immediately know. And like again, you just need to set that up. It can't be intuitive, where it feels again, it just feels authorish. I'm gonna disagree slightly with Alexis on the villain song here. This is not the worst Disney villain song ever, but for me, this is still like low middles.
You know, it's funny when you think about one of the best villain songs ever. It's the one from The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Hellfire.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's what you got to shoot for every time, and it's like not even close.
Yeah, I was going to say Hellfire, Poor Unfortunate Souls. Be prepared.
That's the top. That's generally the top three. What order you put them in depends on preference and the day.
Mhm.
For me, this is. I thought about ranking them, like because I found a list, like okay, because I knew we were going to talk about this. So, where exactly does this rank?
What would you say is the worst Disney villain song? Then I genuinely am curious, Robert. What is the worst villain song from Disney?
I can tell you.
All right,
Zach, go ahead.
Zach, go ahead, take it.
Remember that yodeling thing from Home on the Range?
Oh dear God, I had blocked that memory out.
I brought it back. You're welcome.
What can you say
that
is
the best contribution you've ever had to a podcast, Zach.
Thank you.
You made both Alexis and Robert turn green.
I don't entirely disagree. I don't know that it would be my lowest. I'd have to rank them out.
Like I said, I had blocked that whole movie from memory.
I'd really have to rank them out to figure it out. It might that one might wind up being there just more by default than by personal. I don't have a tremendous amount of acrimony towards it.
Keep going, but I'm gonna look for something real quick.
Okay. For this one falls. It's a little worse than Shiny.
I like Shiny.
I don't dislike. Again, this is worse than Shiny. I don't know. Again, Shiny is not top 5, but it's probably 8 or 9 if we go 10.
I'll give you that.
Okay. So real quick. So I'm on Obsessed, thedailybeast.com, Obsessed. All 27 villain songs ranked from cringe to classic. Can we quick do this?
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Hang on. Do you want to share your screen for this, or do you just want to go?
Yeah. You know what? Go,
Good idea.
Are you okay that I'm like barging in with this, Robert?
No. By all means. Again, I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, so I can never quite. There's always one that I forget that would swap a couple of places.
All right. So I feel like this one's because these are pussies who wrote this article, and they went with the low hanging fruit. So 27 is the Siamese Cat song from Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah.
I want to go on record as saying, once again, my ex-wife was pissed that they didn't include this song in the new one.
Why not?
I still stand by. Why the hell did you think it was a good idea to change from Siamese cats to them being voiced by black actors if you were trying to avoid problems?
Yes,
that one might be. And when I say it's one of the worst, I actually don't care that it's like quasi-racially insensitive. That doesn't bother me. It's just not a very interesting song.
All right, so there's that.
It's also one you can't sing without saying the words in a very stereotypical accent. You can't sing the songs.
Siamese, if you please. We are Siamese, if you don't please.
Now we are looking over your domicile.
Oh, I can't wait to put this on TikTok.
If we might be safe here for quite a while. Yeah, see what I mean? You have to sing it. You have to sing it racially for the lyrics to even work. If you sing it normally, it doesn't work.
It's written with the accent in mind. It really is.
All right. This one, the 26 is the one that Zach came up with. Yodel Ollie, little leahy-hoo. Okay. Trust in Me. Oh, see, I'm
fine with that being low. I'm fine with that being low.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty higher than that. Yeah.
I just always hated how short it is.
I would fuck the snake. The snake in this car is fucking creepy as shit. Love is an Open Door.
That's okay. I guess technically that's a villain song, but I wouldn't count it.
You're right. Like again, technically, but no, I don't. I disqualify that one.
Especially since I actually know at least 3 people who did use that song to unironically propose.
That's the thing. It's like it's not. I don't think it is a villain song.
It's
they
not.
are Look,
it's
he
sung
doesn't become
by
a villain to the
villain.
very end of the fucking movie. Like he wasn't trying to manipulate her. He was genuinely trying to get in her pants.
Well, look, by the same token, like Jafar's brief refrain of Prince Ali does not qualify as a villain song either.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I'm sure that'll be on the list somewhere. All right, there it is. This is the thanks that I get from Wish, the number 23.
I can live with that, believe it or not. Let me express my problems with this before we move on real quick, 'cause this started the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little too upbeat. The tempo's a little bit too fast for what I prefer for my villain songs. I actually like them to be a touch slower. It's a little bit too... it's pitched a little too high. Not his voice, but the music. Like, it's...
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they were trying to go for like a Spanish Mediterranean flair with the sound, but it sounds like there's parts of it that are like quasi Caribbean to me. Like it just doesn't work for me as a villain song. Like thematically it's great, execution wise not so much.
All right, 22, the Elegant Captain Hook, and I feel like that's just because people are prejudiced against Peter Pan now.
No. I can live with this one mostly because there's a bunch that are better, not because it's bad. This is not a bad song.
I like this one too.
This one,
but I'm okay with its placement.
This one would be low. I would actually put this one lower than this would have gone to 23 for me. I don't.
Wait a minute. I'm confused about because I never thought of that as the villain song. I thought that was just her singing at the end of the Card song, and the Card song "We're Painting the Roses Red" is not a villain song. So I don't really. She sings like 3 lyrics, and then she cuts off the. Yeah, it's a horrible stretch.
It's why I would rank it a lot lower, but
Here's your Prince Ali, number 20.
Doesn't count.
I don't count that.
I don't count reprises.
The Headless Horseman of the Adventures of Ichabod Crane and Mr. Toad.
Okay.
Sung by Brom Bones.
That's fine.
With a
That's fine at
hip
19.
hip and a clippity clop. He's out there looking for a head to chop.
I want to be like you, the Jungle Book.
I love this song.
Okay,
So do I. I don't know if I would call this a villain song. Though, I don't think the monkeys are villains.
I don't count King Louis as a villain. It's a good song.
Yeah.
It's not a villain song.
This is an obstacle. This is okay. So this is the fundamental misunderstanding of what villains are, because King Louis was an obstacle. It was an event that happens in the movie that he has to overcome. He's not a villain.
No, Ka's a villain and Shere Khan's a villain.
Right.
I just got to throw out, by the way, if you haven't heard it, Big Bad Voodoo Daddy does an amazing cover of "I Want to Be Like You." If you haven't heard it, go look it up. It is so good.
I'll have to check it out. The Phony King.
Hang on. It was the best part of the live action when they had Christopher Walken sing talking for "I Want to Be Like You."
Actually, hearing him sing the full song with new lyrics in the credits was a lot of fun.
Oh, it was great.
The Phony King of England's not a bad song.
It's not, but
it's a villain song. It's sung by the heroes.
No. Again, this is a song about the villain, but this is not the villain song. So again, not one I would count here. I would have disqualified that one.
Oh, this one should be higher. Mad Madam Mim.
Mad Madam Mim's gained a lot of fan favorites in recent years.
Because a lot of women look like her now.
What? Mark, I appreciate that you're going through a tough time, but I'm going to take 25% off the misogyny, if you would, please.
Actually, Mark, if I may, there is actually a TikTok trope that I've seen with women and they have the regular camera on when she's saying, "I can be beautiful, lovely, and fair," but it's only skin deep, and she puffs back. But then they turn onto when they do that, they switch to an ugly filter on them. Right. So I think that's part of what's made it so popular, is that it does lend itself to fun Snapchat and TikTok videos like that.
There's like 10 other jokes I wanted to make, but Robert chastised me, so I'm moving
on.
Shiny from Moana.
Shiny. I really like Shiny. I thought it was good.
This is also, but this is, I think, this is a King Louis thing where I wouldn't necessarily say Shiny. This was the villain of the movie either.
Here's the thing. Given how they conduct the finale, Tamatoa is the closest this movie has to a villain. So I'll
that's what I'm saying.
No, okay, in this case, I'll allow it.
Yeah, that's true. It's not like King Louis against Shere Khan. It's Tamatoa versus Taka, and Taka is not really a villain. B, doesn't have a song. I love Hepa Loves the Woozles.
That's about right.
I get it right there, or should I say my honey?
I have a serious weakness for the Mellow Men, and I love hearing them sing in that song.
All right,
Zach,
number
I'm sure
13
you
is
know
Idol. Number 13, High Diddly D.
I would put this lower. I don't
I
care.
think that's
for
the first villain song ever made.
It is.
It is.
It is.
It gets points for historical context, but I would put it lower because musically it's not that interesting.
The Baxton from Winnie the Pooh. I don't remember this.
You know
I don't
what?
remember.
This
This is too high.
I don't remember the song "Love," but I do remember enjoying that. Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, "World's Greatest Friend of Mine." That is well deserved in a spot.
This almost
I
could.
love that song.
This almost could be higher. This is in my top 10 personally. I love this song, and Vincent Price is just tremendous.
Oh, see, I'm curious to see what's going to be ahead of this because Savages is like top
Savages
5
is
for me.
great.
Yeah, Savages is like one of the best things about Pocahontas.
I think it's okay. It is well done, but I thought it was a little ham-fisted with the lyrics.
Dude,
They're
Savages
different
fucking,
from us, which means
Savages
they
is
must
on
be evil.
Savages is on my short list of fucking walkout music for a fight. Like that song is like I want to hear that done metal style. Like that is a hype song.
Mark,
yeah.
ask me after the show. I have a link to I have a cover of that's metal.
Can I have one too?
I would Savages I would put a little higher. I would put Mother Knows Best outside my top 10.
Oh no,
This is really
firmly
good,
in my top
though.
10. Yeah.
Donna Murphy is belts out with a Broadway voice. She's incredible in this song.
The lyrical, I mean, because like I think back to some of the lyrics of some of these songs, like they're okay. This one is deeply insidious. Like this is some like Munchausen by proxy shit going on here. This is like the narcissistic mom song. It's awesome.
I'm not saying it's not awesome. I'm saying it wouldn't be in my top 10. This is my 11. I think is the way I had that tracked out last time.
The mob song. There you go.
Yeah, mob song's great.
No argument.
No complaints.
See, I would have thought they would. I would have thought that they would have gone with, Gaston.
I think I've seen this list, and I want to say that's number 1 on this list.
Okay, well, it's well deserved.
Admittedly, I never called it the mob song. I always called it "Kill the Beast."
Yeah, Cruella de Vil. I mean, it's okay.
Cruella de Vil.
Hang on. Here's my.
Cruella de Vil.
There's a question of there's a slightly noodly legal question here. This is about the villain, but I don't know if it's the villain song because Cruella doesn't sing. So
that's the thing. I was just gonna say, like, my problem is that they didn't clearly define because I think the villain songs are the songs sung by the villain, but they don't have enough to get to 27 if they do that.
True, but I would argue that the song I believe is just as iconic as Cruella de Vil herself.
Yeah.
Again, I'm willing to allow Cruella de Vil to be in because it's also purely diegetic music.
So when I think about like Mother's Knows Best, how insidious and evil it truly is, and what a shit bag of shit it makes the character look like. It's one of the reasons why I think it's one of the best songs Disney ever did. And I don't laugh at it. I laugh hysterically at Gaston every time. No one takes cheap shots like Gaston. It's like I can't laugh at him now. Like I want to have a beer with this guy.
In a wrestling match, nobody bites like Gaston. Like
no one goes around in boots like Gaston. Yes. Oh my god, I love the.
It really is. Like, dude, again, Beauty and the Beast, man, the animated movie, one of the best soundtracks, top to bottom. I don't think there's a miss in it.
I don't remember this one. Friends on the Other Side.
Friends on the Other Side is good.
It was so good it made the video unavailable.
Okay, and I will say a lot of that is the visual style and the oh my god, Keith David. Because God, he is I am so excited about him playing the voice of Dusk in Has Been Hotel. Mine is number 4.
This is way. Hang on, this is way too high. This is
I agree.
This is a fine song. I don't object to it. Top 5 is way too high for this.
All right. And number 3 on the hit parade.
The top 3.
Robert's about to find the people who at the Daily beat him to death with a soap and a sock.
Hang on, I told you, like the top 3 are all basically interchangeable, and I can't get mad at it. Look, is this my number 1? Yeah, look, my list, Be Prepared and Hellfire are basically like tied at first, and I swap which one depending on the day. And then Poor Unfortunate Souls takes the spot right below it.
Yep, there it is, number 2, which makes there it is, Hellfire the Hunter.
Hellfire.
Yeah,
All right,
there is no argument that Hellfire's number 1.
All right, so
Well, not now that
we
there's
started
that
that because you were
terrible
talking about.
variation on of Be Prepared from the live action one.
That was so
right.
disappointing, especially when the guy who they got to play Scar is freaking West End trained and an amazing singer. It's like you could have
We
had
are
such
nearing
a good
on an hour and
rendition of
40
that.
minutes here. So, Robert, finish up your craft. And then let's get into the money.
Sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize. I need him to finish. It was a fun detour, but we're a detour now into almost 2 hours.
Yeah, I think that was kind of it. I think that was the last point I really wanted to make, was to, like, why that villain song didn't work for me. And I'm happy. Again, I'm happy to detour down Disney villain songs, because that's a really wonderful subcategory of music that.
Oh, I'm gonna go to sleep tonight with visions of you singing "Be Prepared" in the shower.
I don't sing in the shower at the express request of everyone in a 3-mile radius.
You will in my mind.
I was gonna say there is nothing wrong with a well-written villain song. Although, admittedly, if we also are talking about all Disney villains, would you consider Oogie Boogie's song as part of a Disney villain song?
If I never hear the words "A Nightmare Before Christmas" again, it'll be too fucking soon.
Look, this is what happens when you have a tween daughter. Deal with it.
It's what happens when you date these days, and you date the weirdos that I do.
That's your fault.
Okay, they look like Mad Madam Mim, and they're singing fucking "Nightmare Before Christmas." I hate my life. Robert,
Hang on a
are you
second,
done
Mark.
now?
Just hang on to the point Alexis was making. Yes, I would, and I would put Oogie Boogie's song relatively high up there.
Okay, Alexis.
Pumpkin scented candle, birthday gift from my sister.
Again, the music I think is kind of a miss for this movie. I mean, you'll be lucky if there's 2 songs that stick out to you in like 2 weeks.
Who did write these songs? I gotta look up who the composer was.
I
have it. Hang on.
Julia Michaels and David Metzger.
Metzger did the traditional score. If you're looking for the songs, it's Julia Michaels and Benjamin Rice.
it was Rice.
Good job. All right, are we ready to move on?
Again, it's an unfortunate miss. It's a movie that relies on trying, like you said, like pelting you with member berries, and that was just a miss. Like the meta nature of this movie was profoundly aggravating especially once you realize what's going on with it. Like, nope.
It's like a child trying to be subtle. They're not. They're not. They're banging pots and pans together, but they're like, I snuck up on you. You didn't. You
really didn't.
You were like Jacob Marley jiggling chains, but no, I'm a ninja. You're not, and that's this movie.
Yeah.
All right. With that said,
not a good movie at the end of the day, I think.
Alrighty, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
Alrighty, on a budget of $200 million, this movie made a paltry and embarrassing $49 million in its opening weekend. I got extra sound for all the Disney bombs.
I was going to say, can we actually get a count of how many times we have used that sound effect this year, and how many times those were used for Disney properties?
A lot.
10 of 10. All right. The weekend that was, we got the Hunger Games maintaining its spot at number 1 for a second week in a row. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Napoleon.
Ark.
Yes.
As a production note, would you like to share your screen again?
Fuck.
As long as I don't go into the corner again. Oh
no! There you go. Now you're on top
of
it.
You know, I thought earlier when you were making that joke, I thought this was the configuration you were going to go with.
All right, everyone's on top of Alexis now. We're ready to move on. How's your podcast, Alexis? I hate him. I just hate him.
Next time I meet him, I'm not just going to kick him for the photo.
I didn't kick him. I punched him. I'm going to go get a drink.
That's great. Have a tip one back for me. Napoleon debuted at number 2. And
you know what?
Rich,
Mine are again, minor note about this.
Yeah.
Props to the Hunger Games. You have a sub 50% drop week to week these days. That's a major win. Like that movie
Yeah.
still got a pretty big hurdle to climb, but only dropping 35% from your debut weekend. You know what? Good on you guys. Seriously.
We had our issues with it, but we were not necessarily unfair or unkind to the movie. And I think word got out that this isn't a bag of shit. Like, I think it was like a giant miss with us. But I think for people who are Hunger Games fans and were very much interested in the Snow character and did not have the pick and you and criticisms that we had, the movie worked. You know, I think what I'm saying in a very roundabout way is I think this gave the fans the service they wanted. I don't get it, but you know, it doesn't have to service me. And I think that's what happens. Like Elemental being a good example of this is no one went to go see it opening weekend. And then people heard it was good, and it's not full of gay shit, and it's not not going to hurt your family. So people saw it over time.
Yeah, Pixar Elemental was devoid of potentially divisive messaging.
Yeah,
like the fundamental story of Elemental is about how cultures integrate together, and that's a completely universal sentiment. Like. Because it's not about anything other than we come from different places. How do we all get along? Because that's the world we live in.
So imagine you're a studio executive at Disney, and
I'm not jumping out of I'm not getting shoved out of a window with a suicide note on taped to my back saying it was all my fault.
And you're at your dining room table, you're at your kitchen table, and your wife is looking through a catalog, trying to find rich things she can buy, and you're looking through the reports for the weekend. You're looking through the trades. And you hear the wife. I'm doing a bit from Superman 3, but you hear what going ooh, and you're looking at the fact that your $200 million animated feature celebrating the life and breath of the history of Disney was number 3 behind the Hunger Games prequel 2 weeks in a row and Ridley Scott's war period piece Napoleon, and that's when you take the grapefruit and shove it in your wife's face.
And you barely beat Trolls 2 in its third week.
Yeah, that's fucking like how have the mighty have fallen. Like Alexis referenced, all hail the mouse. The mouse's head has been guillotined and sitting in a basket and it's rotting at this point.
Look, it was all hail the mouse, and then it was Viva la Revolution.
Trolls Band Together dropped from 2 to 4 in its second week. Thanksgiving 3 to 5. The Marvels 4 to 6. Oof, the Marvels.
Dude, hold on. Look they lost almost 1,000 theaters.
Oh yeah, they're done with this. Like no one came to see it, no one wants it, and they have to make room for other shit. Like how do you feel if you're fucking Marvel at this point? Like where you used to picture a time when all was simply strange, and the movie theaters had screens they had to rearrange. When Endgame was every fucking theater. It was like Endgame and one other movie at one point.
You could legitimately find Endgame start times like every 45 minutes for a while.
At least, yeah. And now they're like, get this fucking Marvel thing out of here. This is a dead fish. You're sticking up the joint.
Yet I would argue that the Marvels was a lot more enjoyable than what we just sat through.
You can argue that all you want, sweetie.
Not sure I'd agree, but I
moving on.
Now I'm thinking about that because I can't instantly dismiss the point.
A nice podcast where I haven't wanted to murder both of you. Please let's start it now. The Holdovers maintained its spot number 7 and it gained a bunch of
Holdovers held over. Who'd have thought?
Taylor Swift dropped
from holdovers.
Dropped from 6 to 8. Saltburn entered a bunch of theaters and jumped from 14
it got into
to 9.
wide release.
Yeah. Five Nights at Freddy's is the second most successful horror movie or some shit like that, and like
since
the most
the
successful
pandemic.
Blumhouse.
Since the pandemic, yeah.
Yeah, so good for Five Nights at Freddy's, one of the few victories this year. That dropped from 5 to 10. Next Goal Wins 8 to 11. Priscilla, gosh, I wish there was time for us to talk about this on the schedule. Dropped from 9 to 12. Killers of the Flower Moon 10 to 13. And then I'm just going to drop to Oppenheimer apparently back in theaters again. That jumped from 21 to 20.
They're trying to get it to the $1 billion mark.
That movie was.
I still say it'll get it next year when they re-release it for Oscar time.
Yeah.
Yes. Minas Placeres however you pronounce that. Debuted
Wait,
number
wait,
25.
Say
No,
that- say
no,
that again.
you're all gonna die. Debuted at 40, and that was the weekend that was.
But Mark,
was your all gonna die a movie title, or was that a
Yes.
promise?
legitimately
Yes.
was. Legit-
I was looking down when he read it. I honestly didn't catch.
No, movie title. It was like serendipity just reared its ugly head at that moment for Mark, so he could. As I'm sitting here trying to get him to pronounce foreign words again because Mark is extremely white.
Robert isn't amused by much, but he will absolutely get a child's giddiness at hearing me pronounce anything that isn't the English language and anything that gets in my way.
Especially Spanish or French, because
Yeah. Because I do it with an accent and fuck it up too. Okay.
Meanwhile, what Mark desperately wants is for movies to start coming out in Ebonics so that he can do that correctly, and I will just be the one wanting to shoot myself.
Yep. I don't want to go through this anymore. It hasn't fucking moved in months. Let us.
So, for everyone curious, nothing has changed in the top 10. The fentanyl corpse of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, losing money at $476 million, is still number 10. Barbie number 1 at $1.4 billion. Super Mario Brothers $1.3 billion. Again, none of that seems to have changed all that much
At all.
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny still not surpassing Meg 2: The Trench. For those of us that like to point and laugh at that catastrophe.
So hang on. Five Nights at Freddy's, a little engine that could beat both The Flash and the Marvels. Yeah.
And Hunger Games.
But look, our question at the moment is whether or not Five Nights at Freddy's beats Indiana Jones. And that seems like a bridge too far. It's about 100 million off.
Yeah, I don't see that happening, but it's close.
That's a pretty big gulf. But all the movies doing worse than Five Nights at Freddy's
are Creed 3, The Flash, The Nun 2, Taylor Swift, Sound of Freedom, Dungeons and Dragons, Paw Patrol, The Equalizer, Insidious, Marvel's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Scream, The Hunger Games, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Evil Dead Rise, and I'm not going past 30. Just some of the other stuff.
Can we still laugh and point at Shazam being at 33 now?
Well, I was going to say,
dude, The Exorcist Believer made more money than Shazam 2.
That's painful.
Can we take a moment and just kind of look at some of the other movies that we've? It's not our year in review or anything like that, but like just a moment in time here because we have nothing else to talk about at this point. I mean, just kind of looking at all right, Shazam: Fury of the Gods, 133 million. Blue Beetle, 129. We talked Gran Turismo. We loved it. We said nothing but good things about it. 121 million. Haunted Mansion, speaking of bombs, 117. Saw X, 105. The Creator, 104. And everything else this year made less than $100 million, including Radulich Broadcasting favorite Cocaine Bear. My son,
Cocaine Bear.
Your future president, Jonas Radulich, wants a chicken in every pot and a cocaine in every bear. I'm proud of my son. Mm-hmm.
Should it be a Coke bag and not a Coke can?
Have you run campaigns, madam? Because I have, and a Coke can in every bear, is what tested positive. Anywho, so enough of that silliness. All right, next week.
Is it though? I kind of want more.
So we're taking 2 weeks off from things that are in the theaters concurrently, and next week we're doing The Killers, the Killer, which is the David Finch movie on Netflix, and then Pain Hustlers. Then the week after that we're doing Napoleon, even though Napoleon's already out. It just happened the way that worked with my schedule when I could see Napoleon, so that's what we're doing. But the next big feature is Wonka, and then Aquaman, and then we're done for the year.
Okay, serious question. Like, we all know Aquaman's probably going to bomb.
Probably.
I'm saying probably with like 80, somewhere between like 88 and 95% surety.
I don't want to talk about this for very long, but I couldn't disagree with you more. I don't think anyone's going to go see Aquaman. I think if people weren't willing to go see The Flash, now we've had a whole year of this, of anyone that's paying any kind of attention talking about what a dead brand DC is. Stuff has come out about the new Superman movie that is pissing people off. This new Superman Legacy by James Gunn.
That's not helping.
Alexis, every time Zava Zaslav cancels a cartoon, a little part of her soul dies. This stuff that's bothering people. Yeah, so I think you're gonna have a huge backlash against Aquaman. I think I look, as much as I praise Jason Momoa's performance in Fast X, I don't think he did himself any favors. And when you look at some of the stuff in that trailer for Aquaman, you're like, oh, it's that same character again.
I also completely disagree with you about Jason Momoa's character in Fast X, but
And you're entitled to. But my point
we
being,
had that debate.
Yeah, my point being is I think people didn't want to see that character be Aquaman. They were struggling with Jason Momoa as Aquaman to begin with, but at least he was fun when he was broody and pissed off all the time. Now he's making silly sounds and knocking statues over. No one's going to go see this movie. Go on.
The only reason I hold, like, again, somewhere in that, like, 5 to 13% hope is the first Aquaman was successful, and no one associated with this movie, apart from Amber Heard, carries the same baggage that has been carried by everything else. So, do I expect it to fail? Yes. Yes, I do. Am I willing to... Would I be willing to play Russian roulette with the odds of this movie's failure? No, because I'm risk-averse in that respect.
There are 2 movies left that can possibly crack the top 10 for the year. Alexis, yes or no? Does Wonka, because we know Aquaman's not going to. I don't even want to give that as a choice. Do you think Wonka cracks 500 million?
Again,
500 million?
Hang on.
Yes.
Remember, number 10 right now, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
Yeah, to knock it out of its place, it has to get more than 476 million.
Yeah,
so
I think Wonka
I rounded up
could.
to 500.
Yeah, I think Wonka could. I
You
know a
get
lot
to
of people are really excited to see it.
If you actually get to 500, you might surpass Little Mermaid at this point.
Go ahead, Zach.
Oh, I thought Wonka can because he's the Candyman. The Candyman can.
I bring you on for your brilliant analysis, and you don't disappoint. Robert, yay or nay?
I'm just gonna be negative on this one and say no.
Here's my struggle with Wonka. Remember when we talked about this is a musical, and we actually had to look it up, like, because it wasn't obvious?
Yep.
That tells me there's something wrong with this movie.
The more recent trailers have made it clear it's a musical. The earlier ones didn't. The more recent ones have started showing people dancing. We haven't heard enough of any song previews, but
if you've got a pretty girl, you put her out front. If the girl is ugly, you hide her. And that's been the problem with movie marketing as of late, is they're trying to hide shit. And then they can't hide it anymore, and they have to put it out there, and there's no choice anymore. And that's my thing with Wonka. Look, not to be funny about this or obvious, but when they were doing the Cats musical, they let you know ahead of time you were getting Cats, bunghole or not, you were getting Cats, and you were getting musical, and you were getting memories, the whole 9 yards. You know, let it be what it's going to be. And the fact that we're questioning at one point whether or not Wonka's a musical seems to be that they don't have a lot of faith in people wanting to see this as a musical. And that, for me, is going to be the problem here, is that if you have to be very clear in your marketing what something is, because people are not paying that close attention. So you have to be very direct and very big and very clear. Okay. If I go like Radulich in broadcasting, you only get people's attention for a few seconds and then you lose it again, especially in this TikTok-y world we're in now. So if they're obscuring what this movie possibly is and there's confusion, people are risk averse, they're confusion averse, they don't want to leave their house. And if this isn't clear what this is, then people will just wait for it to come on television. I'm going to give you a second to respond to that, Robert.
I don't think you're entirely wrong. Again, my saying it's not going to is just kind of my... It's not that you can't have successful movies this time of year. There's a mountain of evidence to the contrary to say that you can. This year feels off in that respect. Like, there's not, like, Avatar 2 released around this time, right? Like last year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anything we have here this year is going to hit the same way. So I'm going to say no. I don't think it's going to bomb, but I don't think 500 million. Also, the other reason I have to be negative about it, Hugh Grant. He just makes everything worse.
Stop. He made The Gentleman so much better. All right. With that said, their critical...
Hang on, wait. You said there were 2.
Yeah, that and Aquaman.
Okay, so Not counting Aquaman. Okay.
Nope.
The way you had phrased it led me to believe there was Wonka and one other.
No, I said there were two, and I'm not going to talk about Aquaman because it's not making $500 million.
Okay.
Zach's home movies, where he just does puns and props, has a better chance of beating Aquaman in wide release. And with that said,
are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
well,
That's about right.
all right. 49% rotten for the critics. When we go to top critics, yikes.
Oh, yeah.
20% drop.
Oh my gosh. The inmates have taken over the asylum.
Even the tech birds are not buying this one.
All right, for all the little and middle-aged women that saw this, they thought it was great. But let's see what all the audience thought. Yeah,
it cost you again a little bit, about 5 to 7 points.
Wish, excuse me, the AI writes, Wish earned some tugs at the heartstrings with the way it references many of the studio's classics. But nostalgia's no substitute for genuine storytelling magic, no matter how beautifully animated it might be.
So many things. I'll say there's so many things wrong with that.
Look, the AI didn't actually get to watch, so it's aggregating. But when even the AI is able to tell you, "Hey, yeah, nostalgia is not a substitute for storytelling," you've hit the skids.
All right, we'll read a few of these. Abby Boinstein, the daughter of Leonard. Assignment X. There are many things to like in Wish, including Tudyk's slightly pompous baby goat, some stunning backgrounds, and stars playful good cheer. Okay, this person desperately trying to be invited to the party. Yep. That was her list of good things to focus on because she did not want to criticize this movie.
Yep. Notice not included in her list of good things: the genuine animation, the characters, the music. The writing,
story.
The story.
All right, Daniel Salzman of Salty at the Movies. Wish, the newest Walt Disney Animation Studios feature, celebrates 100 years of magic and wonder by bringing the Disney nostalgia. All right, good boy. You copied right from the PR piece that was.
That really does feel like PR.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds, just, what was that, the opening to your review? Because there is nothing else in there.
Was that the packet they sent you? Like, hey, we'd like you to summarize this.
Linda Cook of Our Quad Cities, WHBF TV, Illinois. This time, I let the audience do a smidgen of my work for me. They applauded at the end of the movie. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to assume you saw this with 2 of your own children then.
And a baby, and at least one baby seal.
I should have, but I saw this with about 10 people at a 5 o'clock showing today. Only one person applauded at the end, and guess what? It was a kid.
Oh, I saw this at an empty theater. Well, actually, I saw this with my sister, and there was like a big family that came in, and then like a half hour into the movie, which is technically an hour because there's like a half hour previews, the baby wouldn't stop crying, and they were like, "Well, we're all gonna leave," so we had the whole theater to ourselves.
Nice.
I saw this in a completely empty theater at a little after 1 p.m. today. I was the only other person in that theater. Best viewing experience.
Well, I was going to say, with all due respect, Robert, how many people are in the theater when you see it? You don't technically get to use that as a, decision on whether or not this is a good movie or not, because you always go to the midday matinee so you can have the theater to yourself.
As few people as possible every time.
Ooh, okay, Rodak Kotachka, The Times of India. Wish reminds us to celebrate the magic and life's simple joys and the enduring power of hope.
No, it doesn't.
Read directly from the copy.
Yeah.
What were life's simple joys in this movie that they wanted us to enjoy?
Sorry.
It is funny that the movie at first, it seems like they want to push the idea of agency, that we should have our wishes back so that we can pursue them without worrying about whether or not someone's going to magically make them come true. But no, in the end, they make Asha the fairy godmother, because heaven forbid Disney pushes a propaganda that magic isn't involved in the wishes.
Sarah Michelle Fetters of MovieFreak.com, top critic. If I judge Disney's latest for what it is and not for what it may have been, I find it very difficult to tell potential viewers to stay away.
I find it very easy to tell potential viewers to stay away from what it is.
Are you this movie's lawyer?
That does seem like a very lawyer argument.
Yeah.
God.
It's like, wow, you found some serious loopholes there, sweetie. Kevin Carr.
We got
That's my favorite.
Jeff. No, Jeff.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Look at that. Kevin Carr is on top of Jeff Harris.
Nothing.
Anyway, the top.
Let's face palm, dude.
Good. Then my work here is done. Kevin Carr, the top of this here sandwich. Fat Guys with the Movies. A love letter to classic Disney animation. This offers a sweet balance of traditional themes and childlike hope. Boy,
It really doesn't.
Where are you people getting? Serious question. Where are you people getting hope from out of this? Like, that's not a major theme of this movie.
I don't know, but let's ask Bottom, Jeffrey Harris, 401mania.com. Disney's Wish is an enjoyable, festive celebration of Disney's magic and history. It's a cute film with good songs, music, and lovely, unique visual aesthetic. Chris Pine makes for a great oily villain. That was as bland a writing as I've ever heard from Jeff.
Yes, and he's not wrong about Chris Pine. Again, probably the best performance in this movie is Chris Pine's.
Oh, easily.
For sure.
But I really disagree with him about especially the aesthetics. Like, there's so many issues of animation here.
I've been reading the positive ones, but I want to read a couple of these negative ones because these just make me laugh. Rendy Jones of Rendy Reviews. Mind you, we are reading pullouts from people's professional movie criticisms, movie reviews, okay? I need people to understand that's what we're doing in this segment. Rendy Jones of Rendy Reviews. So I make this wish to have a better film for us than this. Sir! That is a tweet, not a film review. And then here's another one. It came right out of Twitter. Nate Adams of The Only Critic. Are you now? Ain't no magic here. Yep, and there ain't no hole in the wash tub neither, but that ain't need to put that in my review, you asshole.
Yeah,
I like Rob Thomas's review there. Go back up. Yeah.
Rob Thomas of Madison Movie. Wish seems like less a movie and more like one of those picture puzzles where you circle all the hidden objects on the page. Waka waka.
Not wrong. Sir,
Yeah.
Not wrong.
Not wrong at all.
All
Did
right,
anyone else catch the poison apple, by the way, on Magnifico's table?
Last one. Michael A. Smith of Media Mics. After a series of misfires that seriously threatened the House of Mouse, I am proud to report that with Wish, Disney is back.
So, Loki.
All right.
Okay. Hang on. I just have to say about that last one.
Yes, sir.
That bought and paid for puff piece rated that movie 5 out of 5 stars. My friends,
Hang on. I want to make sure everyone saw it.
I'm sorry, but if you're going to do all those buttons, I'm bringing back the notepad.
Okay, we're good now. Everyone put away. Everyone put your gimmicks back in your pants. Robert.
If Wish is a 5 out of 5 movie for you,
you can see Russia from your house.
I'm sorry, your standards are unbearably low to the point of not being useful.
I was going to say, I think this guy's head's going to explode when he watches the new Miyazaki film.
Oh, I need to go watch that, actually.
I know, right?
All right. Well, folks, that is our review of Wish. Tomorrow, this will be the third attempt at this, and if we don't get it done, I ain't doing it no more. Long Road to Ruin, Lake Placid, myself and Jason Teasley. Alexis is going to push me in the hot gravy and lick me later. But while I'm away,
I'm not underneath you anymore, Mark. Zach, you got to deal with that.
whatever. I'll take what I can get. Anyway, so she's gonna put. So anyway, well, Alexis pushes me into cranberry sauce. That one just for Jesse. The things I did to cranberry sauce on the Metal Hammer of Doom. Robert knows what I'm talking about.
Vaguely.
Alexis, Dorian Price, and Jason Teasley are going to review Thanksgiving on Wednesday night.
Eli Roth's Thanksgiving.
That's right. And then Thursday, we've got a double shot. Yes, indeedy. First, myself and Alexis will review Upload Season 3. And then, hey, it's 3 weeks late, but, better late than never. It's our Veterans Day show. Myself and Andrew Graham will be reviewing The Pacific. What did we do, Robert? We did not Generation Kill. What's the one that The Pacific is the sequel to?
Band of Brothers.
Thank you. We did Band of Brothers. Now we are doing The Pacific, and that's this week. Next week, Damn You Hollywood is back with The Killer and Pain Hustlers.
Either of which are very good.
Tuesday, myself and Jesse finally conclude our series From the Corner to the Deuce, the great works of David Simon, with The Plot Against America, and then we can move on to other things. And that is, and then
if you were only doing the great works of David Simon, that's a much shorter podcast.
Okay, fuck yourself. And then speaking of go fuck yourself, Alexis and some nerd, will be talking.
And Mr. Andrew Orozco, one of my favorite collaborators.
Jonas is upset that you did not invite him to talk the Scott Pilgrim cartoon.
He's welcome to come on if he wants to.
I'll let him know. Anyway,
no, seriously, he wants to. I'm fine with it. I'd welcome him on.
I did 20 minutes into that. And let me tell you another thing about your father. I just want to talk about Scott Pilgrim.
I don't bitch about you behind your back. I bitch about you to your face.
Fair enough. Yes, Alexis, Hejna, and Andrew Orozco from Geek News Network.
Geek News, yeah, very good.
We'll be reviewing the new Scott Pilgrim anime from Netflix. All right, Zachary Strobel writes books and paints houses. Zachary Strobel, show us where you piss from.
Well, first, let me show you my plug. And
That's not a plug.
And I would like to promote a book.
Hang on, let him do his fucking puppet show, please. I don't want to be here all night.
Okay. All right. Usually on the show, I usually talk about like all my books and where to find them. But today, I actually really would like to talk about a specific book, and I have talked about it in their Strange World review. But the reason I'm bringing up this book, which you can get on Amazon, it's called Friendship Sanctuary. It's written by me and my friend, thank you, Camille Bachos. It is actually a very Disney-inspired book. It's my attempt at writing a Disney movie, which ties into today's theme. And we actually, after 5 years, we've got it in color. Sorry for spoiling the whole book, but it is called Friendship Sanctuary. It's basically like if you took Star Wars and Looney Tunes and a little bit of Alice in Wonderland and you just made it really good. I love all my other books, and this one's probably my most niche book, but you can find it on Amazon. You can find all of my books if you go on. Actually, it's actually better if you go on Google and type in Zachary Strobel books. And they're great for holiday presents.
Okay. Zach, when are you back?
I'm back right now.
Nope. I mean, when are you back on the podcast? Like, are you? What's the next thing you're reviewing with us, or do we not have anything for you?
Are there any other animated or semi?
Not this year.
No.
I mean, I'm probably gonna go take my kids to see and at least one date to go see Migration, as has been requested of me, but we're not reviewing it.
I'm planning on seeing that. Maybe
Let me know if you do want to review it, Mark.
Migration.
If you review it, I'll be down for it.
After you see it, look, this is one of those, like, we're under no time crunch here. So if you see it and you do decide you want to talk about it, let me know. I will see it. I will watch it for the purpose of reviewing.
Okay, I will let you know.
Look, at this point, Illumination has a bit more like, they get a bit more faith than a lot of other. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take a flyer on them more than I would other studios.
Well, there was a point where we were reviewing a lot of the animated stuff coming out because I was seeing it opening weekend with my kids, and then we just kind of got away from that.
Actually, I was concerned asking you, Mark. I know that when we do our Best Picture nominee show, you've had me do a retrospective on the Best Animated Features as well. Zach, what would you think about you and me maybe doing just a solo show when the Oscar nominations coming out, talking about the animated nominations?
That'd be cool. Yeah, I'd like that. Thank you.
All right, two ideas possibly, but in the meantime, so we'll have Zachary back on again at some point in the future. If we end up doing migration, Zach, I'll let you know. Alexis, Hejna, show us where you pissed from.
All right. So, yes, the almost unholy trinity will be returning on Wednesday to discuss Eli Roth. I love that I have to say Eli Roth's Thanksgiving, because if I just say Thanksgiving, it sounds like we're just critiquing the holiday. And we're not critiquing the holiday. We're critiquing a gory movie where somebody gets a couple of corn holders shucked through their ears.
Might as well go out in style.
Pretty much.
Well, then as she's desperately scrambling around the floor with blood flowing out of her ears deaf, the killer keeps stalking her. It's kind of great.
Other than that, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. We are right in the middle of our first holiday sale. Now, technically, most sales go from Black Friday to Cyber Monday, which is today, but we are actually going to extend our sale for one more day. So if you're watching this live, you got a little, it's about another 26 hours where everything is still 25% off in both our Etsy and Handmade at Amazon shop. That includes all of our earrings, our necklaces, our bracelets, everything. As you can see, we've got everything low right now. And a reminder that every individual sale that is purchased through either shop, we are donating $5 to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And that is going to run, it started on Black Friday. We will be continuing that charity drive until midnight on Christmas Eve. So go ahead and check us out again. You can find us on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. We are also found on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm not calling it X, and TikTok. My New Year's resolution, I can't believe I have to say this, but it is to find more ways to make faster TikTok videos. I have really got to get better at that. It's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
Robert Winfree. Your plug, sir. Please don't show us where you pissed from. Nobody wants to see that.
I'm aware. Unlike some people, I don't have to be told that, Mark. I have learned this. This is something that was impressed upon me from a very young age.
Speaking of you pressing on people, give us your plugs.
Oh, am I trying your patience?
We're almost 2.5 hours.
The correct answer is always, Mark.
Always. I love you. I hate you. I just can't live without you.
How? I appreciate that. I appreciate that callback, man. I might be the only other person on this podcast who's heard that song.
I love that song.
That tracks. So I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. I got roped into doing Survivor Series this last Saturday because no one else could. And there was no UFC event, so I got to cover that. And per usual, you know, the people who disagree with me are quite vocal. So my full review of that, you know, there were a couple of War Games matches. One of them I liked, one of them I didn't. There was a middle section that I didn't care for. CM Punk came back, and I don't care, and everyone else lost their minds.
Neither did I. I had to go back and watch that, and I went, wait, this is worse than when he showed up in AEW and did a big speech saying nothing.
Well, he didn't do anything. I don't know what he's done tonight, but he was supposed to be on Raw, so I'll go look up a report.
Seth Rollins shot him. Just straight up snuck into the ring, put a gun to the back of his head, and boom, once in the dome.
You imply that Seth Rollins has enough actual cojones to handle a firearm, and I don't believe that to be true.
That is a debatable point. You're right. Continue.
There's other guys in that locker room that if you said they pulled a gun on him, I'd believe you.
Yes. Gunther fired a cannon from backstage.
Gunther wheeled out the Civil War cannon, pointed at the ring, and said, "I hope the hard cam's clear." Boom. Just grape shot. Gunther, I'd believe it of. Anyway, so I covered that, and I cover other professional wrestling and mixed martial arts action, MLW stuff on Thursdays, WWE SmackDown on Friday, UFC events on Saturdays. If you want a weekly look into the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts, this current, I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. This week, a quick look back at the PFL season finale. Know that the PFL has purchased Bellator, and what that might mean going forward, and my hopes and my frustrations with that product. Then also a preview of the upcoming UFC event. That'll, be a good time on Saturday. It's a pretty good card. And let's see. Yeah, next week, Mark and I get to talk a double shot of streaming movies.
Yes, sir.
Neither of which are terribly memorable.
Terrific. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us here on Damn You Hollywood. Thanks, Zach, for coming back. Always fun to have you here and pick at you a little bit. For Alexis, Hejna of Honeysuckle Rose Creations, for Robert Winfree of 411mania.com, I am Mark Radulich on TikTok. Check out my son and his musings, his stand-up comedy. That is the best reason to check out my TikTok, at Mark Radulich on TikTok. Be well, be safe, and behave.